The Oakwood Country Club's annual charity gala was in full swing, crystal chandeliers reflecting off designer gowns and family heirlooms. I stood at the edge of the ballroom, sipping sparkling water while watching my sister Victoria hold court among the city's elite. And then, she laughed, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Amanda tried to apply for membership. Can you imagine? A real estate agent thinking she belongs at Oakwood? Her little circle of socialites tittered appropriately. I checked my watch. 20 minutes until the announcement. Speaking of belonging, Victoria's voice carried deliberately across the marble floor. Catherine, darling, what are you doing here? This event is for members only. I turned to face my sister, taking in her perfect updo and custom-made gown. I was invited. By whom? Her smile was pure venom. Surely not as a potential member. This club is for successful people, dear. Not. She gestured vaguely at my simple black dress. Whatever it is you do. If she only knew what I really did. What I'd been quietly building while she played society queen. Actually, I kept my voice soft. Mr. Bradford invited me. Something about an important announcement. Victoria's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. William Bradford, the board president? I checked my watch again. 10 minutes. Don't be ridiculous. William would never. She stopped as the man himself approached us. Catherine, there you are. William Bradford, 70 years old and still sharp as a tack, smiled warmly. Everything's prepared. Shall we? Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a designer fish. William, what's going on? All in good time, my dear. He offered me his arm. Catherine? I took it, allowing him to lead me toward the podium at the front of the ballroom. Behind us, I could hear Victoria hissing to her friends, trying to make sense of what was happening. The microphone feedback cut through the elegant murmur of conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, William's voice commanded attention. Thank you all for coming to our annual charity gala. Before we begin the auction, I have an important announcement regarding the future of Oakwood Country Club. The room stilled. These people had been members for generations. Change wasn't something they welcomed. As you know, our club has faced certain financial challenges in recent years. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that those challenges have been resolved, thanks to our new owner. The whispers started immediately. Oakwood had been member-owned for a century. Please join me in welcoming the new owner of Oakwood Country Club, Ms. Catherine Pierce. The silence was absolute. I stepped forward, accepting the microphone from William while scanning the crowd. There, Victoria, her face drained of color, gripping her champagne glass like it might save her. Thank you, William. I smiled at the assembled crowd. I know change can be unsettling, especially for an institution as storied as Oakwood. But I assure you, the club's traditions will be respected. I paused. Most of them, anyway. Victoria pushed through the crowd. This is impossible. You can't afford. You don't have the resources. I finished for her. Actually, sister dear, I have quite a lot of resources. While you were busy planning charity galas, I was building an investment empire. 15 hotels, 12 residential developments, and now, I gestured around the ballroom, one historic country club. You're lying, she whispered. I nodded to William, who distributed folders to the board members. The transfer documents are complete. The staff has already been notified. And the first change, I turned back to Victoria, will be our membership criteria. Success, it turns out, isn't just about who you know or what you wear. You can't do this. She stepped forward. Daddy was a member here for 40 years. Yes, he was. And now his younger daughter owns it. Funny how life works out, isn't it? The room had erupted into confused murmurs. These people had never seen me as anything but Victoria's quiet sister, the one who missed social events because she was working. They were about to learn what that work had built. Oh, and Victoria? I added, just loud enough for her circle to hear. About your membership. We should talk. I'm reviewing all applications personally now. I stepped down from the podium, accepting congratulations from stunned board members while Victoria stood frozen in place. My phone buzzed. A message from my real estate director. Hotel deal in Paris is done. You now own the building next to Victoria's favorite shopping spot. I smiled, typing back. Perfect. Next target. The marina where she docks her husband's boat. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just buying what they value. It's showing them that while they were busy judging, you were busy building an empire. And I was just getting started. The morning after the gala, I sat in my new office at Oakwood, reviewing membership files while the city's elite blew up my phone. Victoria had apparently spent the night calling everyone she knew, trying to challenge the sale. Miss Pierce? My new assistant, Margaret, appeared at the door. Your sister is here. Again, and your father just arrived. Send them both in. I closed the membership folder I'd been reviewing, coincidentally Victoria's. They'd burst in like a storm. Victoria in designer casual wear, Dad in his golf clothes, both red-faced and bristling. Catherine Ann Pierce. Dad started, using my full name like I was still 12. What the hell do you think you're doing? Running my business. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. Please sit. This isn't a business, Victoria spat. This is our club, our legacy. Was your club? I corrected gently. The papers are signed. The money's transferred. Oakwood is mine. Dad leaned forward. Where did you even get that kind of money? Would you like to see my portfolio? I opened my laptop, turning it toward them. 15 luxury hotels, 12 residential developments, 3 marinas. Well, 4 now that I've acquired Blue Harbor. Victoria's face went white. Blue Harbor? But George's boat. We'll need a new berth, yes. Unless you'd like to discuss a long-term lease. I smiled. My rates are quite reasonable. For now. This is spite, she hissed. Pure spite. No, Victoria. This is business. I stood up, walking to the window overlooking the golf course. While you were planning parties and judging people's worth by their clothes, I was building something. Something bigger than your little social circle could ever imagine. Daddy. Victoria turned to our father. Do something. But Dad was still staring at my laptop screen, at the numbers that showed exactly how much his quiet younger daughter was worth. Catherine. These properties. How long? 10 years. I turned back to them. 10 years of being the sister who was too busy working to attend your precious social events. 10 years of listening to Victoria mock my choices while I was quietly buying up half the luxury properties in 3 states. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I sat back down. Or would you have dismissed it, like you dismissed everything else I did that didn't fit your country club vision of success? Victoria stood up suddenly. I want to speak to William Bradford. The board won't stand for this. The board already voted. Unanimously. I pulled out another folder. They were quite enthusiastic about my plans for modernization and the capital injection I'm providing. Your plans? Dad's voice was weak. New spa facilities, updated golf course, expanded marina. I paused. Oh, and a complete review of the membership criteria. No more automatic legacy admissions. You can't. Victoria practically screamed. My children, their children, will need to qualify on their own merits. I opened her membership folder. Speaking of which, we should discuss your annual review. Dad stood up, putting a hand on Victoria's arm. Catherine, please. Whatever point you're trying to make has already been made. I closed the folder. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with the architectural team about the new wellness center. This isn't over, Victoria promised, her voice shaking. Actually, it is. I pressed the intercom. Margaret, please show them out and send in the architects. After they left, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Mom, dozens of texts from Victoria's social circle, and 1 message from my investment director. Paris hotel renovation approved. Starting next week. I smiled, typing back. Perfect timing. Victoria usually shops there during Fashion Week. Because sometimes success isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about building an empire so vast they can't ignore it. And every property, every acquisition, every business deal was another brick in that empire. My phone buzzed again. William Bradford. Board loved the renovation plans. Victoria's friends are panicking about membership reviews. Good, I replied. They should be. Because I wasn't just changing a country club. I was changing the rules of their entire game. And I was just getting started. 6 months later, Oakwood Country Club had transformed. The new spa gleamed with marble and glass. The golf course had been redesigned by a world-renowned architect, and the membership roster had changed dramatically. I sat in my office, reviewing the latest applications. Amanda, the real estate agent Victoria had mocked, was now our newest member, her successful agency and charitable work easily meeting our new merit-based criteria. Meanwhile, half of Victoria's social circle had failed their membership reviews. Miss Pierce? Margaret appeared at my door. Your mother's here. I looked up, surprised. Mom had been conspicuously absent since the takeover. Send her in. She entered tentatively, looking elegant, but uncomfortable. Catherine, the club looks amazing. Thank you. Please sit. She perched on the edge of the chair, clutching her designer handbag. Victoria's not doing well. I heard. Losing her membership must have been difficult. It's not just that. Mom shifted. Her friends, her social standing, everything's changed. And now with the Paris hotel. I smiled slightly. My renovation of the hotel next to her favorite shopping district had effectively ended her annual Fashion Week trips. The noise and construction made the whole area unbearable. Business is business, Mom. Is it? She met my eyes. Or is this punishment? I leaned back, considering. Do you remember my college graduation? She frowned at the apparent non sequitur. Of course. Victoria was 2 hours late because she was hosting a club luncheon. Dad left early for a golf game. You spent the whole ceremony on the phone with your interior decorator. Catherine, I graduated summa cum laude with a double major in business and economics. I had 3 job offers from top investment firms. None of you even asked about it. She had the grace to look ashamed. We should have. Yes, you should have. I stood up, walking to the window. But you were all too busy with this place, the parties, the social status, the perfect country club life. So I built my own life, my own success, my own empire. And now, You're using it to hurt your sister. No, I turned back to her. I'm using it to show her, all of you, what real success looks like. It's not about membership cards or social circles. It's about building something meaningful. By destroying what matters to her, by changing the rules. I sat down again. The new Oakwood is thriving. Membership is up. Our charitable giving has tripled. We've started a scholarship program for underprivileged youth. When was the last time Victoria's social circle did anything that actually mattered? Mom was quiet for a long moment. I saw the new membership list. Amanda Reynolds, the real estate agent, who built her agency from nothing and runs 3 homeless shelters. Yes. And Victoria could reapply if she meets the new criteria. Success, community involvement, actual achievements, rather than inherited status. Mom stood up slowly. You've changed everything. No, Mom. I just showed everyone what was always possible. I pulled out a folder. Here, your membership review is next week. I suggest you read the new criteria carefully. After she left, I walked down to the new spa complex. Members greeted me warmly, not with a fake social air of before, but with genuine respect. These were people who'd earned their place here, just as I had earned mine. My phone buzzed. A message from Victoria. I heard Mom came to see you. I want to talk. I typed back, my office. Tomorrow. Bring your CV and community service record. Because sometimes the biggest victory isn't in the taking, it's in the transforming. I hadn't just bought their precious club, I'd changed what it meant to belong. 1 year later, I stood at the podium during Oakwood's annual charity gala. The room looked different, more diverse, more accomplished, more real. Last year, I addressed the crowd. I stood here as the new owner. Some of you were shocked. Some were angry. Some predicted disaster. I paused, looking at Victoria in the back of the room. She'd earned her way back in, eventually, starting a foundation for educational equality and actually making a difference. But look at us now. Our membership is stronger than ever. Our impact on the community is greater. We've proven that true success isn't about who you know or where you come from. It's about what you build, what you achieve, what you give back. After the speech, Victoria approached me. You were right, she said quietly, about everything. I nodded. I know. I just never understood. While I was planning parties, you were planning. An empire, I finished. And now you understand what real success looks like. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning the game, it's changing it entirely. And as I looked out over my transformed club, at the new faces and new energy and new purpose, I knew I'd done exactly that. My phone buzzed one last time. My investment director. Ready to start on the next acquisition? I smiled, typing back, always. Because this was never about a country club. It was about showing them all what real power, real success, and real change looked like. And I was still just getting started.
I looked at myself in the shiny elevator walls and adjusted the blazer I bought on sale for $90 at Nordstrom's. It didn't fit perfectly, but it would do. In just a few minutes, I would be sitting through another long family dinner. I already knew what to expect. My brothers and sisters would brag about all the great things they were doing, and I would sit there, smiling and nodding, pretending not to care. They had no idea what I was really working on. The elevator made a soft ding, and the doors opened to the rooftop lounge of the Chesby Club. It was one of the most exclusive restaurants in Pittsburgh. Only rich and important people could get in. And of course, there they were, my family, the Douglas. Everyone in the city knew our name. The Douglas were famous for being rich from real estate and for acting like money made them better than everyone else. "Well, look who finally showed up," my older sister Natalie said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She smiled as she brushed off some invisible dust from her expensive blazer. "Had to squeeze us in between shifts at that tiny office you work at?" I walked over and sat down in the only empty chair, next to my dad. He glanced at my old shoes and frowned, but I ignored it. "Sorry, I had a late day," I said. "Had to finish a few things at work." "You're still at that admin job, right?" my younger brother Liam asked with a grin. He played with his fancy watch while he spoke. "You know, typing stuff, filing papers, that kind of thing?" "Something like that," I said without much emotion. The truth was, I wasn't just doing some small-time job. I was the CEO of House Ion Ventures, a growing company with some major wins. But I didn't tell them that. Not yet. My father gave a deep sigh, like he had been waiting to say it all day. "Ruth, you're 37 years old. When are you going to stop wasting your talent? Natalie is running our Maryland expansion. Liam just got a $15 million listing. And I'm keeping the lights on," I said, smiling politely. Natalie's face lit up. "You're going to love tomorrow's news," she said. "Douglas Properties is teaming up with Bell Capital. Their CEO is flying in to sign the deal. $45 million. Can you believe it?" I took a slow sip of my sparkling water. I could feel the corners of my mouth trying not to twitch. Bell Capital. My company. The one I had been working with for months to make this deal happen. Liam leaned in. "They're sending someone named, what was it? Ruth Kearney? Never heard of her." "Probably someone who got in through family connections," Natalie added with a smirk. I didn't say anything. I just smiled, knowing tomorrow would be very different. I looked each of them in the eye and spoke calmly. "You'll meet her tomorrow." They laughed and clinked their glasses together, talking about family, legacy, and big plans. None of them had a clue. While they chatted, I was already thinking about the meeting scheduled for the next day. That was the day they would sit across from me, smiling, asking for my signature to seal the deal. They always called me the black sheep of the family. They still do. But after tomorrow, they'll have a new name for me. They'll call me the boss. Over the years, I saw chances they never noticed. They were too comfortable, too used to getting everything handed to them. One of those chances came when I worked for a small tech company called Orion Data Systems. They had some amazing artificial intelligence tools that could change the world. But their money problems were serious. The company was falling apart. When Orion was close to shutting down, I used the little savings I had, along with what I knew about their financial mess, to buy most of the company. It cost me almost nothing. The original founders were great at building technology, but they didn't want to run the business side. They were actually happy to let me take over that part. In just 3 years, Orion became something new. I renamed it Bellrest Capital. It grew fast and strong. Today, Bellrest is one of the top private investment firms in South America. Nobody knew I was behind it. I used hidden companies and secret trusts to cover my name. I joined meetings by video calls, using software to change my voice. While Natalie and Liam posted pictures of their luxury vacations and fancy cars, I worked quietly and built a business empire. Bellrest now owns part of more than 50 companies. Some of them have even beaten my family's company in big real estate deals. But I never changed my lifestyle. I still live in my small 3-bedroom apartment in George Washington's Mount Vernon. I still drive the same old BMW I had in college. I don't need to show off to feel successful. Just then, the waiter brought another round of drinks and broke my thoughts. My mother used the moment to bring up something she often talked about: why I was still single. "Ruth," she said, "if you just tried a little harder, maybe fixed your hair or wore something nicer, not from the clearance rack, you might actually meet someone." Natalie joined in. "My husband is a partner at Roger S. Goldman," she said proudly. "We're hosting a big gala next month for the Children's Trust. Tickets are $4,000 each." She gave me a fake smile. "But don't worry, Ruth. We won't make you feel out of place." Liam laughed. I thought about the invitations waiting on my desk back home. They were addressed to the CEO of Bellrest. They were begging me to be there. And tomorrow, They'd finally learn who I really am. I'm not unhappy, I said calmly as I cut into my steak. Success doesn't look the same for everyone. My father scoffed and shook his head. That's the kind of thing people say when they've failed. It helps them feel better. Natalie's face lit up suddenly.
Oh,
Remember that tiny tech company you used to work for? She said with excitement. Guess who bought them? Bellrest Capital. Liam laughed and leaned back in his chair. If only you had stayed at that company, Ruth. You could have finally been part of something big. I picked up my napkin and gently dabbed my mouth, hiding a small smile. Yes, I said softly. Imagine that. My mother jumped in with her usual sharp words. The CEO of Bellrest is brilliant, she said. Ruthless, smart, and private. That's the kind of person who becomes truly successful.
not someone like you, Ruth.
I raised my glass with a calm smile. Here's to surprises, I said. Natalie lifted her chin like she was announcing something very important. The CEO of Bellrest will be at the contract signing tomorrow. They're very careful about who they work with. Clearly, they know the Douglas name means something. Clearly, I said under my breath, glancing down at my phone beneath the table. A message had just come in from my company's chief financial officer. It was about another big tech deal we were working on in Las Vegas. If it went through, it would shake up the entire industry. It was a deal so big that Natalie wouldn't even know where to start. Put that away, my mother snapped, noticing my phone. It's not like anything important is happening on that screen. Show some manners, Ruth. If she only knew I was finalizing a business deal worth hundreds of millions of dollars, she might have stayed quiet. But I just nodded politely and slipped my phone back into my purse. Let them think whatever they want. It didn't matter. Not for long.
Dinner went on like it always did.
Liam bragged about his growing real estate business. Natalie talked nonstop about her upcoming gala and how many rich guests would be attending. My parents looked at them like they could do no wrong. And me? I stayed quiet, the usual Walmart. The family disappointment. The one they always underestimated. But I didn't mind. Tomorrow would speak louder than anything I could say tonight. The meeting was set for 9 a.m. at Douglas Properties' downtown office. Natalie had been working hard for almost a year to land this deal with Bellrest, never realizing that the CEO she was chasing was her own sister. The same sister she ignored and talked down to. As we got up to leave, Natalie gave me one last dig. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, Ruth. Maybe someday you'll get to stay at one of my fancy resorts. I'll even let you use the family discount." I smiled back. "Maybe," I said. I smiled to myself, thinking of my home on the cliffs in Pfeiffer. A beautiful mansion with ocean views. I bought it in full, no mortgage, no rent. But I didn't brag about it. "That's very kind of you, Natalie," I said with a soft smile. Liam pulled out his black gold card American Express card and tossed it on the table to pay for dinner. "Next round of drinks will be at my new penthouse," he said, smirking. "But be warned, it might make some of us feel underdressed." I picked up my old tote bag and stood up from the table. "Good luck tomorrow," I said smoothly. "I hope everything goes just the way you planned." Natalie raised an eyebrow and gave me a crooked smile. "Some of us can handle real business," she said. "Just don't let your little office job make you late." I walked past their shiny, expensive cars, Natalie's fancy silver Mercedes, Liam's custom black BMW, and headed to my parking spot. My old BMW waited for me, the same one I had driven for years. But tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, I'd arrive in my Rolls-Royce Phantom. Tomorrow, they would finally see the truth. That night, I returned to my quiet apartment. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. I sat down at my secure workstation and closed another deal. One more win for Bellrest Capital. I didn't need to shout about my success. Real power doesn't try to be seen. It builds slowly, quietly, until no one can ignore it anymore. What happens when the so-called black sheep walks into the boardroom as the boss? That's the moment everything changes. The next morning, I didn't reach for my usual discount clothes. Instead, I chose a navy blue cashmere suit, tailored just for me in Hong Kong. It cost more than Natalie's luxury car. My assistant, Randy, had already confirmed every meeting, every name, every detail. Today wasn't just another business deal. Today was history in the making. At 8:52 a.m., I stepped through the revolving doors of Douglas Properties' downtown office. The lobby was filled with people, all busy, all sure of themselves, until they saw me. Everything went quiet. Gone was the woman in old heels and a worn-out bag. Now I stood tall in 6-inch Louboutins, a silk blouse, and confidence that filled the room. Randy walked behind me, holding a Montblanc briefcase worth more than Liam's entire apartment. The front desk guard stared for a second, unsure. "Miss Kearney," he said slowly, "I don't see you on the visitor list." "Check again," I said calmly. "Under Bellrest Capital." He frowned, then looked back at the screen. His eyes went wide. "Of course, Miss Kearney. You're on the VIP list. Right this way." He led me to the executive elevator. People in the lobby turned to look. The sound of my heels echoed across the marble floor like a clock ticking toward a big reveal. In the elevator, it was just me, Randy, and 8 years of quiet hard work. Through the glass boardroom walls above, they were waiting. They had no idea what was coming. I saw them as soon as I entered the hallway. Natalie was walking back and forth, clearly nervous. She was wearing a fake designer suit, which made me smile. Funny, because my company now owned the designer's entire brand. Liam stood nearby, pulling at his tie the same way he always did when he was stressed. At the end of the table sat our parents. They looked excited, proud, and completely unaware of what was coming. "They're expecting Bellrest's CEO at 9 a.m. sharp," Randy said, checking his watch. "Are you ready?" I smiled. I've been ready for 8 years. At exactly 9 o'clock, Randy opened the boardroom door. The room went silent. For pairs of eyes turned to look at me. At first, their faces showed confusion. Then surprise. Then total shock. "Ruth," Natalie said, her voice shaking. What are you doing here?" My father's face tightened. "We're about to have a very important meeting." "I know," I said, walking calmly to the table. I placed my briefcase down and opened it. "That's why I'm here." My mother frowned and narrowed her eyes. "This isn't the time for jokes or drama." I slid a contract across the glass table. "It's not a joke," I said. "The CEO of Bellrest Capital is already here." The room was dead silent. My mother put her hand to her neck, clutching her pearl necklace, like it could help her understand what she was seeing. Liam looked completely lost, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "What kind of joke is this?" Natalie asked. Her voice cracked. "Where's the real CEO?" I smiled and pulled out a simple business card, sliding it across the table. Thick, cream-colored paper. Clean black print. Ruth Kearney, founder and CEO. Bellrest Capital. My father grabbed the card and read it. His face turned red, almost purple. He looked like he couldn't believe it. "This is impossible," he said. "Bellrest is worth billions. You're just a what?" I asked, still calm. "An underachiever? A failure? The black sheep?" Randy stepped forward and handed out neat packets of documents to everyone at the table. "You'll want your lawyers to look closely at Section 8.2, I added. "It talks about how management must follow very clear rules to keep everything in order." Natalie grabbed her copy, flipping through the pages quickly. Her hands were shaking. This can't be real," she said. "You work in admin. You process invoices." I leaned back in my chair and folded my hands. "Actually, I haven't processed an invoice in over 8 years. I've been running Bellrest Capital since I bought that small AI company I once worked for. It was struggling, so I bought it, just like I've bought dozens of companies since then." I paused and looked straight at them. "And as of last week, I now own the entire East Coast branch of Crestmark Financial." Liam sat down hard in his chair, looking pale and stunned. So much for that fancy penthouse he liked to brag about. I continued explaining the details of the deal. The investment was being made through one of my smaller companies, a part of Bellrest. Finally, my mother found her voice. "But your small apartment, your simple clothes, that old car? All part of the plan. I said with a calm smile. Not everyone needs attention. Some of us work in silence and let the results speak for themselves. My father's voice was low and bitter. Why all the secrecy, Ruth? Why not tell us what you were doing? Because you never respected anything you couldn't control, I answered. You would have tried to get involved, change things, take credit for my work. I stood up and smoothed the fabric of my expensive skirt. I looked around the room, completely in control. Then I placed a pen on the table beside the contract. Now then, I said, shall we talk about the terms of Belrist's $70 million investment in Douglas Properties? It's a lot of money. I suggest we carefully go over what you're agreeing to. Natalie's face had lost all its color. She looked like she was going to be sick. The negotiations, she whispered. I've been negotiating with you this whole time? Yes, I said with a nod. Through people I hired. And I have to say, your first offer was way too high. Thankfully, I already had access to the real numbers. The next hour was difficult for them, but honestly, it felt amazing to me. I went through the Belrist Capital contract one page at a time, line by line. I paused at key points just long enough to watch their faces go from confused, to shocked, to completely nervous. The truth was simple. This $70 million deal would save Douglas Properties from falling apart. They were deep in debt, and they had been hiding it from each other. The company they were so proud of was slowly falling apart behind their fancy press releases. And I had known the truth for a long time. Of course, I said, flipping to the final page. This deal comes with conditions. One of them is a change in leadership. I looked right at Natalie. You will no longer be the project leader. Her mouth fell open. You can't do that. This is my deal, my project. Actually, I can, I said. And it's my deal. Just like the last 3 you bragged about. Each one was funded by companies owned by Belrist. Then I turned to Liam, whose fake confidence was fading fast. As for your real estate empire, those risky loans you've been hiding, Belrist now owns most of that debt, which means you work for me now. My father suddenly stood up, his chair screeching. Now wait just a minute, Ruth. This is outrageous. You can't just walk in here and... I can, I said, cutting him off. My voice was sharp but calm. And I have. Belrist isn't just some small business. We have investments in over 50 major companies. Your company? It's just a small piece of a much bigger picture. I let them sit with the truth for a moment before finishing. But because you're my family, I said, I'm giving you a choice. You can sign the agreement and accept the changes, or you can refuse and watch everything fall apart when we call in the debts you owe. Silence filled the room. No one spoke. No one even moved. Natalie's shoulders began to shake. She was crying but trying to hide it. My mother, who had always been so proud and proper, looked small and tired in her seat. She was slouched, defeated. Liam stared at the documents in front of him like they were glowing red hot. He didn't even blink. Finally, my father picked up the pen. His hand trembled. Years of pride and control were breaking apart right in front of me. One by one, they all signed. Randy quietly collected the signed contracts as I stood. I have another meeting across town, I said, slipping on my coat. You can let yourselves out. My real office makes this place look like a storage closet. I turned toward the door, but paused with my hand on the handle. Oh, and Natalie, about that charity gala you're hosting next month, I said casually. She blinked. What about it? Don't worry about sending me an invitation, I replied with a soft smile. I bought the venue last year. She stared at me in shock. Actually, I own most of the buildings where your events are held. Funny how that works. The car ride back to Belrist's true headquarters gave me a quiet moment to think. Their shocked faces had been satisfying, yes, but this wasn't really about revenge. It was about finally being free. Free to stop pretending. Free to stop hiding. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Why didn't you ever tell us? I looked out the window at the Pittsburgh skyline. I thought about every dinner where they made fun of my old car. Every comment about how I was wasting my potential. Every moment they looked right through me like I didn't matter. Because you never would have believed me, I thought. You only respect power when it's placed directly in front of you. In the months that followed, everything began to shift. Natalie was quietly moved into a different position, what they called a strategic advisor. A nice way of saying she had been pushed aside. The projects she used to brag about were now officially credited to the real teams at Belrest. Liam's real estate company didn't stay independent. Belrest folded it into its restructuring division. His debts were cleared, but so was his freedom. As for my parents, they acted like none of it was a surprise. They began rewriting the past, pretending they had always supported me, that they had known I was capable of this all along. But I knew the truth. And now, so did they. They started telling everyone how proud they were. They called me a gifted visionary, their brilliant daughter who had just needed time to find her path. Friends and neighbors heard all about the mysterious billionaire in the family. I let them talk. It didn't cost me anything. I stayed in my small apartment a while longer. It helped me stay grounded. But I finally let go of my old BMW. I donated it to a local women's shelter where it could be useful. As for my real homes, including the private penthouse on the top floor of Belrest Tower, they stayed my quiet escape. No one needed to know where I really lived. The next family dinner didn't take place in a restaurant or someone's house. It was held in my executive suite, 50 stories above the city. The room had tall glass windows from floor to ceiling, showing the skyline in every direction. The walls were lined with modern art, handpicked by top curators. Everything in the space was calm, expensive, and elegant. They looked around in amazement, taking in every detail. I lifted a glass of red wine. Just one bottle cost more than Natalie made in a month. I smiled softly and said, "Real success isn't about showing off. It's about what you build when nobody's watching." No one spoke after that. For the first time, the black sheep had silenced the entire flock. But here's the truth. I still shop at Walmart. I still enjoy simple things. Because real power doesn't need attention. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It knows who it is and stays steady, even when no one else believes in it. If you're still here, reading my story, thank you. Not just for reading, but for really seeing me. For years, I was the one no one expected much from. The one people looked past. The one they called a disappointment, a failure, a misfit. But I've learned something important. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't need to be liked to be valuable. If you've ever been judged by your car, your job title, or how well you fit into someone else's version of success, this message is for you. If any of this feels familiar, I invite you to leave a comment and share your story. I truly want to hear it. And if this spoke to you, hit subscribe. Not because of drama or revenge, but for the reminder that sometimes the people who are doubted the most are the ones quietly building something powerful. You don't need to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. You just have to believe in yourself. And keep building, quietly, steadily, and in your own way. Hi, I'm Janice. I used to think family meant love, safety, and a place to call home. But on my 31st birthday, my parents gave me a packed suitcase and told me to leave. No thank you. No goodbye. Just cold words. You're too old to live here for free. The truth is, I paid their bills. I helped with their debts. I kept the lights on. And still, they treated me like I didn't matter. But the worst part wasn't being kicked out. It was realizing they had been using me for years, and I never saw it. And when I finally spoke up and tried to protect myself, they turned on me completely. Before we get into the rest, what time is it where you are? Where are you listening from? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your story too. Because some storms aren't just survived, you grow out of them. I pulled into the old cracked driveway. The sun was already going down, and the sky over Ridgeway, Ohio, was turning dark blue. The air had that early fall feeling, cold enough to sneak under your jacket and make you hug yourself tight. I reached over to the passenger seat and grabbed a small cake box. It was the only thing I got for myself today. $30. Vanilla frosting. Happy birthday written in messy red icing. I didn't bother asking the tired teen behind the counter to fix it. When I stepped inside the house, something felt wrong. Not because I expected a surprise or even a birthday card. I had learned a long time ago that Nathan and Tiffany, my parents, didn't celebrate anything for me. But tonight, The house felt colder than usual. Quiet in a strange way. The kitchen lights were buzzing, giving off a pale, harsh glow. Dinner was already on the table. Meatloaf, canned green beans, boxed mashed potatoes. I hadn't even taken off my coat when Nathan shouted from his seat at the head of the table, "You're late." I placed the cake on the counter. The sound of the paper bag crinkling was the loudest thing in the room. I said I worked late and had to finish some reports. My voice was calm, flat.
I didn't say sorry.
Tiffany didn't say anything either. She just kept moving her fork around, not looking at me. Nathan made a grunt and poured more whiskey into his old, chipped glass. I hung my coat on the hook and sat down. The whole room felt tense, like a stretched wire ready to snap. Dinner began with the sounds of knives hitting plates, glasses clinking, and a few fake coughs. No one said happy birthday.
No one even looked at me.
Just the sounds of chewing and swallowing like machines. I picked up my fork and pushed the mashed potatoes around my plate. They looked sad. I should have known something was about to happen. Nathan wasn't the kind of man to stay quiet for long. Halfway through eating, he slammed his fork down hard. Tiffany jumped in her seat. The sound shot through me like a jolt. He leaned back and stared at me like I was something awful. "You're too old to live here for free," he said. His voice was cold, like he had practiced saying it. "It's time you moved out." For a second, I just stared at him. The words didn't feel real. I looked at Tiffany, hoping she'd say something different. Maybe say he was just drunk. But she didn't even look up. Her lips were pressed, so tight they looked pale. "I pay the internet bill," I said. "The electricity. Half the mortgage. Groceries." My voice stayed calm. I didn't raise it or let it shake. I just told the truth and left it on the table. Nathan let out a short, harsh laugh. It felt like he slapped me with that sound. "Paying a few bills doesn't mean you get to stay forever, princess."
Princess.
He used to call me that when I was little, when I sat on his lap with scraped knees and messy hair. Now, it was something he threw at me like an insult. I felt something break inside me, but I held it in. This wasn't just anger. It wasn't random. They had planned this. They picked my birthday to do it on purpose. Not to celebrate, but to kick me out. I pushed my plate away. The meatloaf, the cake in the bag, and the heavy silence all sat in my stomach like a rock. I stood up slowly. I could feel both of them watching me, maybe waiting for me to cry or beg or fall apart. But I didn't. I just nodded once, quick and firm. "Got it," I said, and Nathan smirked like he had just won something. Tiffany kept her head down, her shoulders slouched with shame, but not enough to speak up. Not enough to stop them from throwing me away like I didn't matter. I walked toward the stairs. I stopped for a second by the counter, where the cake still sat inside its bag. The plastic handle had stretched from the weight and was digging into the soft box. One candle was missing. Maybe it fell off in the car, but it felt like a sign. One missing candle. One missing person. One missing family. I picked up the cake and went upstairs without looking back. Each step creaked under my feet, loud and final. I closed my bedroom door and leaned against it, letting the dull sound at my chest. This house was never really mine. Maybe it never had been. I sat on the bed and stared at the packed bags I had been too scared to finish these last few weeks. A part of me had known this would happen. Maybe not today. Maybe not in this cold way.
But someday.
I thought I had more time. I thought I could fix things by just helping more. I took off my jacket and folded it over the suitcase. My hands were calm, moving without feeling, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I was done. As I walked around the room collecting a few things, my mind went into planning mode. Cancel the utility autopay. Move my paychecks to my own bank account, not the shared one my mom told me to use just in case. Find a storage unit until I figured out where to go next. They didn't just throw me out tonight. They gave up everything I ever gave them, without me asking for anything back. Outside the window, the wind picked up. Leaves shook loose from the trees along the street. It was another reminder that winter was coming soon. But I wouldn't be here for it. As I zipped my suitcase, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Same brown hair tied in a messy bun. Same tired green eyes. But something had changed. A line had been crossed. And I couldn't go back, even if I wanted to. I went back to the bed and sat down hard. The cake was on my nightstand now, looking small and sad. I hadn't even bought candles. Not that anyone would have been there to sing anyway. The smell of cheap frosting filled the room. Too sweet, almost sickening. I stared at the box. Through the plastic window, I could see a small smudge of icing. Then, without thinking, I pushed the cake off the nightstand. It landed with a soft thud, the box and cake squishing into the old carpet. "Happy birthday, Janice," I whispered to myself. I sat on the edge of the bed. The silence in the room felt heavy, like it was wrapping around me. My suitcase was half-packed, sitting wide open, as if it was making fun of me for not being ready. Outside, the wind blew against the windows, making the loose glass rattle. No one had ever bothered to fix them. The whole house felt tired, like it had given up. And suddenly I saw it clearly. This wasn't a home. It was just a place where I was allowed to stay until they didn't need me anymore. I looked at the cake on the floor. The frosting was smashed and messy. It looked silly now, like a small hope that didn't belong here, smeared across the carpet. I looked away and stared at my gray suitcase instead. The handle was smooth and worn out from years of use. That suitcase wasn't just filled with clothes. It was filled with years of me cleaning up their messes, fixing their problems, while no one cared about mine. All the memories came rushing back like cold water. I remembered when Nathan broke a tooth during one of his drunk nights. He didn't have money to fix it, with all the late bills piling up. So I used my savings, the money I was putting aside to get my own place, and paid the dentist in cash. He didn't thank me. He just came home drooling and cursing like always. I remembered the winter Tiffany called me scared. Her tires had slid on the ice and she was stuck outside of town. I skipped work, bought her new tires, and paid the tow truck. She touched my hand once and said, "You're a good girl," then gave me the repair bill too, like I was expected to pay that as well. Then last spring, the roof started leaking. I was the one up on the ladder in the rain, hammering shingles to stop the water. Nathan stayed inside with a beer, yelling about how you can't trust contractors these days. And still, he called me a freeloader, me, the one keeping the house from falling apart. None of it mattered. Not one thing I did got me a place at the table tonight. I pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes until flashes of light danced behind my eyelids. The sadness was still there, but now it felt different. It was colder, turning into something stronger. Something that wouldn't break so easily. The floor creaked as I stood up and grabbed my phone from the nightstand. I walked downstairs, my steps quiet out of habit. In the living room, the TV was on, and its blue light made my parents look strange. Nathan was relaxed in his recliner with a beer in his hand. Tiffany sat stiffly on the edge of the couch, her eyes blank and far away. They looked completely normal, like nothing had happened. Like tonight was just another Saturday, eating dinner and acting like the world owed them something. I stood there for a moment. Maybe part of me still hoped. Hoped that Tiffany would look at me and feel something. Hoped that Nathan would snap out of it and remember all the times I paid the bills when the checks bounced. But hope can be dangerous. And tonight it was gone. Nathan saw me first. He gave a half smile and raised his beer can. "Don't forget to turn off the lights when you leave," he mumbled. "You're not paying for them anymore." Those words hurt more than any slap. They weren't just kicking me out. They were acting like everything I had done meant nothing. Every sacrifice. Every unspoken favor. I didn't reply. I didn't cry, shout, or beg. I let the silence take whatever part of me still wanted their approval. I turned and walked back up the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. The weight in my chest was worse than any suitcase. When I reached my room, I closed the door softly and placed my hand on the wood. It felt like I was sealing away the part of me that once believed family meant loyalty. I stood there for a while, breathing in the musty smell of old carpet and faded memories. Then I reached under the bed, pulled out my laptop, and placed it on the nightstand. If they thought they could throw me away and still live off the things I handled behind the scenes, they were wrong. I opened the laptop. Its pale screen lit the room. My fingers moved fast. Years of paying bills and sending money online had trained me well. One by one, I opened the accounts. Electricity, water, gas, all under my name. I hovered over the cancel button. My fingers shook for a second, then pressed down. Electricity, canceled. Water, canceled. Gas, canceled. Each click felt like cutting a rope that had kept me tied to this place. In this house, love only mattered when it was useful. And betrayal was always quiet, never spoken out loud. Next, I opened the bank account, the one my mother said we should keep together for emergencies. I moved the rest of my money into a private account I had set up months ago, back when a small voice in my head warned me that this day would come. Transfer complete. Then I logged into the cable and internet accounts. These were services they used every day without thinking, never knowing the bills were in my name, paid with my income. They watched shows for hours, scrolled through their phones, all on my dime. Cancel. 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 Every click gave me a little bit of power back. Power they always acted like I didn't have. I paused for a second on the auto insurance. Nathan's truck. Tiffany's old Camry. Both were under my plan because it saved them a couple $100s each month. I could almost hear Tiffany's voice from last year, sweet and fake, saying, "You're so good with money, honey. It just makes sense." It made sense for them, not for me. I clicked remove vehicle for both. My heart was beating fast, not because I was scared, but because I felt something like relief. A sharp, quiet kind of victory. When the last account was closed, I shut the laptop. The small snap of it closing filled the room. The silence felt different now, cleaner, clearer. This wasn't about getting even. It wasn't even about being angry anymore. It was about fairness. They wanted me gone?
Fine.
But they were finally going to feel what it meant to lose the daughter who had kept everything running.
Quietly.
Without credit. Downstairs, the TV was still loud. I could hear fake laughter from a sitcom drifting up the stairs. I wondered how long it would take before the lights shut off, before the heat gave out, before reality broke into their bubble of comfort. I wasn't going to stick around to see it. Tomorrow I'd be gone. But tonight, I began taking apart the house they built on my back, one piece at a time. The glow from my laptop screen faded a little as I leaned back. My hands hovered above the keyboard. It was almost midnight. The house was quiet, pretending to be peaceful. Outside my window, the oak trees moved gently in the cold wind. I could smell dry leaves in the air and feel the first signs of winter coming. I sat there for a moment, feeling the tiredness in my body. But it wasn't just from today. It was from years of doing too much, being responsible for everything, and never being seen. But I couldn't let myself rest, not yet. I cracked my knuckles, let out a slow breath, and focused. First up, the electricity bill. I had been the one to take over that account years ago, after Dad forgot to pay, and we went 3 days without heat. My fingers moved fast. The password came to me right away. In just a few seconds, I opened the payment section. My heart was calm, and my mind felt clearer than it had in years. I clicked Remove Payment Method. A message popped up asking me to confirm. I clicked Submit right away, without pausing. Next was the water bill. I did the same thing. Canceled the automatic payment and deleted my debit card info. It felt like quiet satisfaction, cold but strong. I wasn't just walking away. I was removing myself carefully, step by step, from every part of the house that still depended on me. Then I opened the Netflix account. I almost laughed when I saw the profile names: Dad, Mom, even one labeled Family Movie Night. That was funny, since we hadn't had one of those in almost 11 years. I deleted the account.
Internet gone.
Cell phone extras gone. My Amazon Prime disconnected from the house. Each click wasn't done to hurt them. It was survival. It was the truth showing up through action. After about an hour, I pushed the laptop to the side and pulled out a yellow notepad from the drawer. I wrote down everything I had canceled, everything that would stop working when the morning sun came up and touched the walls of this falling apart house. I needed to see it on paper, a full list of what they used and never thanked me for. As I finished writing, a rush of old memories came over me. Staying late at work to earn extra money for a heating bill. Canceling trips so Tiffany could fix her car. Missing birthdays because they always needed something more. I gripped the pen harder, making my hand stop shaking. This wasn't about getting back at them. It was about saying, I'm done. I opened my banking app and looked at the emergency savings account I had made years ago. Back then, I thought it was a smart idea, something to protect the family so we'd never lose heat again or sit in a dark house. The account had my name first, but I had allowed them access because that's what family is supposed to do. I tapped the freeze account option. That meant no money could be taken out and no transfers allowed. To unlock it again, they'd need to go through weeks of paperwork and get signatures. But by that time, I'd be long gone. When the screen confirmed it was frozen, I finally felt something loosen inside me. A knot in my chest began to relax. I had given them everything. My money, my time, my loyalty, and too many chances. But tonight, I finally chose myself. Just then, a new email popped up. It was from Adam, my cousin. He sent a meme, just a cartoon dog sitting in a room on fire saying, "This is fine." No message.
Just that.
I let out a quiet, dry laugh. Adam, for all his problems, always knew when something was wrong. I thought about replying, but I didn't. I didn't want to pull Adam into this. He was family by blood, but he wasn't part of the mess. Some bridges needed to burn without anyone watching. Instead, I opened a blank email and typed the subject line slowly, almost like a machine. You asked me to leave. Now so has my support. I stared at the blinking cursor. My fingers hovered over the send button. My heart thudded once, twice, then I closed the tab. They didn't deserve a message. They deserved the same silence they gave me tonight. The clock on my laptop showed 2:47 a.m. The house made small creaks as it settled, and I heard the soft clink of a bottle hitting the sink downstairs. I pictured Tiffany sitting on the couch, holding her glass of wine, watching old shows like nothing was about to change. The heater turned on with a low groan, vibrating through the floor. Probably the last warm night they'd have for a while. I checked every cancellation, every frozen account, every service I had disconnected. All set to activate at sunrise, clean, final, and something they couldn't undo. By tomorrow, when Nathan tried to turn on the light or heat up his coffee, nothing would work. When Tiffany tried to buy groceries with the joint bank card, it would be declined. When the internet cut out in the middle of her favorite show, they would understand. They would feel it. I didn't smile.
I didn't cry.
I just felt empty. But it wasn't the kind of empty that hurts. It was the kind that makes space for something better. At 2:55 a.m., I closed my laptop with a soft click and leaned back in my chair, watching the shadows move across the ceiling. My bag was packed. My car, parked 2 blocks away so no one would notice, was ready to go. Tomorrow, I would leave this town behind. Leave the broken promises and heavy guilt behind too. Tomorrow, they would wake up without the daughter they never really thought about. Morning light was just starting to peek through the thin blinds of Julie's apartment when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I pulled the covers tighter around me, hoping for a second that it was just a wrong number. But one look at the screen killed that hope. 12 missed calls, Tiffany, Nathan, and a few unknown numbers. Probably neighbors or distant family. I didn't listen to the voicemails right away. I just stared at the list, feeling a tight knot in my chest. A small part of me felt guilty. I pushed it away. They made their choice. Lying on my back, I opened Adam's message first. It was short, direct, just like him. Internet's down. No lights. Dad's furious. Mom crying. I let the phone fall onto the bed beside me and stared up at the cracked ceiling. It had started, and this time I wasn't going to fix it. A new notification popped up. A voicemail. Curiosity got the better of me, so I played it on speaker while pulling on a sweater. Tiffany's voice came through, soft and shaky. "Hi, honey, there must be some mistake. You wouldn't just leave us like this.
Please call me.
We can fix whatever's wrong. We're family." I closed my eyes and let her words hang in the air. Funny how fast freeloader turned into family when the Wi-Fi stopped working. Another sound. A text message. This one was from Nathan. "You'll regret turning your back on your family." No warmth. No confusion. Just anger. I turned the phone over and silenced it. Julie walked into the living room carrying 2 mugs of coffee. She wore a big hoodie and had messy hair from sleep. She didn't say anything at first. She just handed me a mug and sat on the floor next to the bed. After taking a slow sip, she looked at me and said, "You look like someone just found out their winning lottery ticket expired." I let out a dry laugh. "They're panicking," I said. Julie leaned her head back against the wall, knees pulled up to her chest. "Good," she said quietly. "Sometimes saving yourself isn't betrayal, it's survival." We sat in silence for a while, listening to a garbage truck rumbling outside. Later that afternoon, we went to a small community event at the local church. It was just a simple fall festival, pumpkin decorations, pies, booths with handmade candles. A peaceful, small-town kind of day. I stayed near the edges, not really talking to anyone. But the whispers still reached me. Nathan was there, standing near the apple bobbing game. His voice was loud enough for people to hear. "My daughter abandoned us," he said angrily. "After everything we did for her. Kids these days, no loyalty, no respect." People turned to listen. Some nodded like they agreed. But others looked at each other, quietly unsure. It wasn't the first time Nathan had spoken badly about family in public. People remembered things. Julie gently bumped my arm. "Don't," she whispered. I hadn't even realized I'd taken a step toward him. I stopped, took a breath. Let him say what he wanted. Let him act like the victim. I didn't owe them an audience. Instead of saying anything, I walked past the booths, letting pieces of conversations float to me. Didn't her daughter pay their bills for years? Isn't she the one who stayed home to help when her mom got sick? Funny how now she's the one they're blaming. People were slowly starting to see the truth. It was like a quiet shift pulling power away from my parents. Nathan and Tiffany could tell their side all they wanted, but the cracks were showing, and this town didn't forget easily. That evening, back at Julie's place, I scrolled through messages. Friends had sent me updates and pictures of the house. The porch light was off. Newspapers were stacking up outside. One friend said Nathan had gotten into a shouting match with a worker from the electric company, right in front of the neighbors. They weren't sorry for how they treated me. They were only embarrassed that people were now seeing it. As the sun went down, painting long purple shadows across the streets, I stood by Julie's window and watched the town settle into quiet. Somewhere not far away, the house that had drained all my energy and love was now dark. But I didn't run back this time. The lights in that house went out, and with it, a part of me went quiet too. Still, as night turned into morning, the world kept moving. People went to work. Dogs barked. Kids laughed at the bus stop. Life didn't stop just because mine had been broken. 3 days passed quickly. I stayed busy trying to build a new routine. I cleaned the bathroom, organized papers on Julie's kitchen table, updated my resume again. Anything to keep from thinking about them. But the mind doesn't stay quiet for long. One morning, my phone buzzed. That familiar feeling made my heart pound. I almost didn't look. Almost. It was a message from Tiffany. "After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us? Your dad's health is getting worse. He hasn't eaten in 3 days." I stood in the middle of the small living room, the phone heavy in my hand. My stomach twisted into hard knots. The guilt came fast, sharp and deep, like it had just been waiting for the right moment. I sat down on the old couch, staring at the message until the words became blurry. Old memories came to mind. Birthday cakes, late-night talks, laughing over burnt Thanksgiving dinners. Those memories didn't match how things had been lately. But right now, they still hurt. What if they were really hurting? What if I had gone too far? The guilt crept deeper. And it didn't stop with Tiffany's message. The phone kept buzzing. Calls started coming in. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years. People I barely spoke to suddenly felt they had the right to tell me what to do. "You know your father's heart isn't strong," Aunt Samantha said in a voicemail. "Families argue, but cutting them off like this, it's cruel. Think about your mother," Uncle Jeremy texted. "She's fragile. This could kill her." Each message chipped away at my strength. Maybe I was heartless. Maybe I really was the villain here.
Then my phone buzzed again.
A text from Adam. Short and cold. Dad told Mom to fake chest pains next. If guilt doesn't work. I stared at the screen. That one sentence knocked the air out of my chest. So that was their plan. Not to make things right. Not to listen or take blame. Just more tricks. They didn't miss me. They missed what I did for them. Feeling numb, I tossed the phone onto the coffee table and curled up on the couch. The sun moved across the floor, its soft golden light touching the old rug in Julie's living room. The hours passed slowly. I didn't fight the weight of it all. I let it press down on me. All the years I bent over backward. All the quiet sacrifices. All the times I gave everything, hoping it would finally be enough to feel like I belonged. But that feeling was gone. This wasn't sadness anymore. It was something colder.
Sharper.
I stayed still until Julie came home from her shift at the clinic. Her shoes squeaked on the floor as she stepped inside. "You okay?" she asked, dropping her bag near the door. I nodded once, slowly, because for the first time in a long while, I actually was. When she went into the kitchen, I picked up my phone. I opened my contacts and scrolled through the list. Nathan, Tiffany, Aunt Samantha, Uncle Jeremy, and every cousin who had scolded me, but never once asked if I was okay. One by one, I deleted them. No rush. No tears. Just quiet action. Then I went to my settings and blocked every number linked to that house, that life, that false sense of family. It wasn't done in anger. It was mercy for myself. I placed the phone face down on the table and leaned back, taking a deep breath that felt like my first real one in years. Tomorrow would come, and with it, new problems. I wasn't foolish enough to think this was the end of the fight. But tonight, I had a small one. When I put the phone down after blocking them all, I expected to feel a wave of peace. But all I felt was silence. Still, quiet, and strange. Like even the world was waiting to see what came next. The first few days passed without trouble. I helped Julie organize her apartment, applied for jobs in nearby towns, and even cooked us dinner. Little steps. Small signs that maybe, just maybe, life could feel normal again. I had escaped the damage they tried to leave in my heart. Then it started. It was a Sunday morning. The cold of fall had started to slip in through the windows. I was drinking weak coffee from one of Julie's chipped mugs when my phone buzzed on the table. At first, I thought it was another job rejection. Instead, it was a message from Emma, an old coworker. "Hey, have you seen what your dad posted?" Curious, I tapped the link. There it was, posted in the town's Facebook group like an open wound. Nathan's words were bold and cruel. Some daughters are raised to be thankful. Some turn into snakes. After everything we gave up, our daughter left us, sick, starving, alone. Please pray for us. The post already had over 100 comments. Some people offered prayers. Others, people I barely knew, were throwing harsh words like stones. "Ungrateful brat," one person wrote. "Your parents gave you life and you spit on them," another said. My hands shook so much I almost dropped the phone. Julie looked over from the kitchen, her eyebrows pulled together. "Bad?" she asked. I could only nod, pressing the phone against my chest like it could stop the pain rising inside me. By noon, it had gotten worse. Screenshots flooded my inbox, sent by friends who still cared enough to warn me. Neighbors, distant cousins, even old teachers, all posting their opinions, saying they always thought something was wrong with me. Julie sat across from me, her voice steady and strong. "They're writing your story for you. Are you going to let them?" Her words hit me hard.
No.
Not this time. I turned off my phone and pulled open the drawer where I kept the folder. Inside was everything. My truth. Receipts. Screenshots. Emails. Bank records. All proof of the thousands of dollars I had quietly given to that house and those people, without ever asking for anything in return. Electric bills in my name. Mortgage payments from my account. Home repairs paid for by extra shifts I worked. They forgot the cost because they never had to pay it. But I remembered every cent. I spent the next few hours scanning and sorting every document. Every piece of paper reminded me of what I gave. Each one cut through any guilt I had left. By evening, I had built something strong, a wall of truth they couldn't knock down. Julie peeked into the room, her voice soft. You going to post it? I looked up from my laptop and shook my head.
Not yet, I said.
Let them keep talking. Let them show everyone who they really are. Because I knew something Nathan and Tiffany didn't. I wasn't reacting out of rage. I wasn't broken or wild anymore. This time I was calm, focused,
And ready. I was calm now.
careful. I wasn't rushing. I was planning. The small town we lived in loved gossip, but it also fell apart quickly when the truth came out. All I had to do was wait for the right moment, for their lies to grow so big they couldn't hold them up anymore. And when that moment came, I wouldn't need to say much. Just the truth. That night, while Julie and I ate leftover spaghetti on the couch, she raised her fork like a toast.
To survival, she said.
I gave a small smile and lifted my fork too. To never feeling bad for saving yourself. Later, lying in bed in the spare room, I thought about Nathan's words. Some daughters are raised to be grateful. And honestly, he was right. I had been grateful. Grateful even when they ignored me emotionally, drained me financially, and treated me like I didn't exist. But not anymore. By the time I fell asleep, I wasn't just surviving their lies. I was ready to end them. With truth they never thought I'd share. The choice was made. There was no turning back. The next morning, I sat at Julie's small dining table. My laptop was open. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady. The air smelled like leftover coffee and last night's rain. Just normal things. But this moment wasn't normal. It was the start of something bigger. I began uploading the post. I kept it clear. Not angry. Not emotional. Just facts. First, screenshots. Years of utility bills. Power, water, internet. All in my name. All clearly dated. Then, bank records. Proof that I had made monthly mortgage payments, even when Nathan's paycheck could have covered it. I added emails from our landlord, showing I had paid for repairs that kept the house together through cold Ohio winters. At the end, I wrote a short timeline. The years I gave up vacations, birthdays, even simple self-care, just to keep a roof over their heads. Then I ended it with one simple sentence. When they asked me to leave, they didn't just lose a daughter. They lost the person who kept the lights on when they weren't looking. I hit post. For a moment, everything was still. The only sound was the low hum of the fridge. Then my phone buzzed.
Once.
Then again. It started slow. A few likes. Some shocked comments. A couple private messages from old school friends saying, I always wondered why you stayed so long. Then it grew fast, like a dam breaking. Dozens of shares. Hundreds of comments. Neighbors. Former teachers. Even people I barely knew. People I barely remembered started speaking up. One neighbor wrote, I remember seeing her shoveling their driveway alone when she was 17 while her parents yelled at her from the porch. Another said, Nathan always bragged that he never paid a cent for the bills once Janice got a job. More and more stories came out, like old wounds finally opening. People had noticed more than I ever realized. They had just stayed quiet until someone finally told the truth out loud. Meanwhile, Nathan and Tiffany started to panic. Nathan tried to fight back first. He posted an angry message. All families have misunderstandings. My daughter is making things sound worse than they are. It's sad, really. But it didn't work. The comments were quick and sharp. Funny how you never mentioned her paying your bills until now. One person wrote. You don't seem too sick to cash her checks, another added. Then Tiffany tried a different way, guilt. My voicemail filled up. Janice, please. Your father isn't well. I didn't know he was going to post that. This is all a big misunderstanding. Please take it down before people think badly of us. There was a time when her voice, that begging tone, would have broken me. Not anymore. I knew it wasn't about feeling sorry. It was about saving their image. That afternoon, Julie and I walked to the fall festival in the town square. The air smelled like caramel apples and hay. Kids ran around, laughing near the bounce houses. A brass band was getting ready to play near the courthouse steps. I felt the stares as soon as I arrived. But it wasn't anger anymore. It felt softer, sadder, like people were starting to understand. I walked past Mrs. Eric, my old elementary school teacher. She gave me a small, sad smile and nodded. Mr. Walter from the hardware store tipped his hat in silence. Then, near the pumpkin carving table, a woman I barely knew, one of Tiffany's old church friends, came up to me. She gently touched my shoulder and said, "You deserved better, sweetheart." We all knew. We were just too afraid to say it. Tears filled my eyes, but I blinked them away. I gave her a quiet thank you. It felt small, but it carried more meaning than words could explain. Standing there, in the middle of a town where I had once felt invisible, I finally saw the truth. The shame had never been mine. It had always belonged to them. As the sky darkened, fairy lights lit up the square. The smell of roasted corn filled the air. Music played. Children laughed. And for the first time, I didn't feel like an outsider. I didn't feel like someone standing on the edges, waiting to be noticed. I belonged to myself. Later that night, fireworks lit up the sky above the courthouse in red and gold. I stood still, head tilted back, watching the sky light up with color. A quiet voice inside me whispered, "Sometimes the brightest things come after the darkest storms." And this time, I wasn't running from the mess. I was rising from it. The smell of burnt leaves floated through the air as I leaned against Julie's window, watching the town settle into another cool autumn night. Everything outside looked normal, peaceful, like nothing had changed. But inside, I knew I was standing at the edge of another fight. 3 days had passed since I shared the truth. I had almost let myself believe it was over. That maybe, just maybe, silence would be the last word between us. Then came the knock. It wasn't loud or angry, just a soft, almost shy tap at the door. I glanced at Julie. She looked up from her coffee, eyebrows pulled together in a quiet question. I crossed the small room and opened the door. A police officer stood there, holding a large brown envelope. "Miss Janice Marin?" he asked, voice calm. "Yes," I said, my stomach tightening. He handed me the envelope. "You've been served. Civil suit. Any questions, contact info is inside." I nodded, said thank you out of habit, and shut the door quietly. I stared at the envelope. I already knew who it was from. I sat down at the kitchen table, slid my finger under the flap, and pulled out the papers.
Nathan was suing me.
The charges were almost unreal, if they hadn't been so hurtful.
Theft.
Emotional abuse. Abandoning him financially. It was a tantrum, dressed up in legal language. Julie read over my shoulder. She shook her head and whispered, "Unbelievable. They're doing this just because you finally walked away." For a moment, the guilt came back, fast and sharp, like a wound opening again. That old voice in my head returned. "Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you should have just stayed quiet." But that voice didn't control me anymore. I took a deep breath, steady and slow, and reminded myself of what was real. "Not this time," I said out loud, standing up. "I'm done saying sorry for choosing myself." By noon, I was on the phone with a legal aid office in Columbus. I explained everything clearly and calmly. I sent them all my proof, every bill, every receipt, every bit of support I had given over the years. They listened, asked smart questions, and then said they could help me. "You have a strong case," the paralegal told me. "Honestly, it sounds like you should be the one suing for being taken advantage of." But I didn't want revenge. I just wanted my life back. I followed their advice and filed my own formal complaints. This time, I clearly explained the years of financial control and emotional pressure I had faced. Elder abuse, I learned, can go both ways, especially when adult children are forced to give money and labor while being made to feel guilty if they say no. The response came fast. Tiffany called first. Her voice was shaky and overly emotional. "Janice, please. You're tearing this family apart. We only wanted what was best for you. You're overreacting. Your father's not well." I didn't reply. An hour later, Nathan sent a text, his final blow. "You think you won. Family always gets the last word." I stared at those words for a long time. They blurred as anger and sadness fought inside me. Then I opened the small drawer next to my bed. Inside, wrapped in tissue, was a tiny plastic cake topper. I had bought it for myself on my last birthday, the same day they kicked me out. Just one candle. A sad, broken reminder. I turned it over in my hand, thinking about how much hope I had once put into something so small and simple. Family isn't who you're born to, I whispered into the quiet room. It's who treats you like you matter. 3 days later, I stood outside the police station, holding legal documents. Beside me was a volunteer advocate from the legal aid office. The building looked plain, just gray walls and square windows, but I felt the weight of everything it stood for. Inside, Nathan sat at a worn wooden table. Tiffany was beside him, nervously twisting the strap of her purse. They looked smaller than I remembered. Angrier. Weaker. A police officer calmly told them that if they moved forward with the false charges, they could be sued for defamation and financial abuse, and that I had the evidence to prove it. Nathan's face turned red. He pushed his chair back, making it scrape loudly on the floor. "This is a witch hunt," he yelled at the officer. "She's manipulating everyone." No one said anything. Tiffany sank into her chair and started crying so loudly it echoed through the room. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. As they stormed out, the officer turned to me and said quietly, "You did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Outside, the sun was surprisingly bright against the cool autumn sky. I stood still for a moment, letting the light warm my face. Behind me was the courthouse. Ahead was the town, quiet and calm. The air smelled crisp and fresh, like an ending and a beginning happening at the same time. With every step I took away from that building, I felt lighter. The heavy weight I had carried for years slowly faded. No more explaining. No more guilt. No more saying sorry for things that were never my fault. As I crossed the parking lot, a breeze lifted the fallen leaves and spun them around my boots. It felt like the world itself was gently wiping away what I no longer needed. I drove away, the courthouse growing smaller in my rearview mirror. I rolled the windows down and let the cool air rush in. It felt like a fresh start, like washing away the past. For the first time in a long time, my heart didn't feel heavy. No phone buzzing with guilt-filled messages. No texts asking for apologies I didn't know. No more trying to hold together a family that had never truly held me. I was free. And freedom, I realized, wasn't loud. It was quiet. Still. Peaceful. Over the next few days, I stayed at Julie's place. Life moved in simple ways, making coffee, folding laundry, walking to the corner store for milk. Everyday things. But this time, I did them without fear. No one watching. No one judging. No one reminding me I owed them just for being alive. It felt strange. But it also felt like something I wanted to protect. One morning, while sitting at Julie's tiny kitchen table with my laptop, I saw an ad for a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just an old brick building with squeaky floors and drafty windows. But it was mine if I wanted it. And for once, I did. By noon, I had signed a lease. I didn't tell anyone except Julie. She handed me a chipped coffee mug and smiled. "To new beginnings," she said. "To finally choosing myself," I replied. The next few weeks passed in a soft blur. I bought secondhand furniture one piece at a time, a sun-faded couch, a wobbly kitchen table, things someone else had once loved. I painted the walls pale blue, the color of open skies and deep breaths. At night, I'd sit by the living room window and watch the town lights flicker like stars in the distance. And little by little I noticed something. The silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt peaceful. It felt earned. One Saturday, while unpacking my last box, I found it, tucked away at the bottom. A small piece from my old life. The tiny plastic cake topper. The one from the birthday that changed everything. I held it in my hand for a long time. The late afternoon sun hit its bent, plastic edge. It used to hurt to look at it, but not anymore. Now, it wasn't a reminder of what I lost. It was proof of what I made it through. I placed it on a shelf above my desk, not to honor the people who hurt me, but to honor the girl who didn't let it break her. Later, someone slipped a card under my door. There was no name, no return address. Inside was a small note written in neat handwriting. You were never the problem. Some people just fear the ones they can't control. I never found out who sent it. I didn't need to, because I already knew the truth. The final truth. Family isn't something you earn by giving everything. It's something given freely or not at all. And in their absence, I was building something stronger. Something they could never take away.
Peace.
Self-respect. A life built not out of guilt, but from choice. That night, I sat by my window. The city lights glowed softly below. I smiled to myself and whispered the words I had waited so long to believe. I am enough. Sometimes, the only way to become the person you're meant to be is to walk away from the people who raised you. Blood connects us, yes, but trust, kindness, and respect are what make real family. Have you ever had a moment where choosing yourself meant letting go of everything you thought you needed? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. If this touched something in you, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful journeys, because here, every story matters. Stay strong. Stay true. Your story isn't defined by family drama. It's defined by how you rise above it. My name is Brittany, and I was 31 when I thought I had met the love of my life, Luke. Our relationship moved quickly. Within a year of meeting, we were married. Luke is an accountant, tall and full of life. His laughter is the kind that lights up any room. I work in digital marketing, and I love painting during the weekends. I've always been someone who likes to plan things, while Luke is more go with the flow. I used to think that our differences made us a perfect match. The day after our wedding, our living room was filled with wedding gifts, cards, wrapping paper, and leftover decorations. It was a happy mess, a reminder of the fun we had at our wedding. That afternoon, Luke's parents, Teresa and Bradley, came over to visit. Because we got married so fast, I hadn't spent much time with them before. But they seemed friendly, at least at first. As we started opening gifts together, I noticed that Teresa and Bradley were more focused on the presents than I expected. Teresa picked up a crystal vase that my Aunt Frances had gifted us. She held it up, staring at it like it was the most precious thing she had ever seen. "Is this a crystal vase?" she asked. "Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it?" I replied, trying to gently steer the conversation away. I didn't want her to get any ideas about taking it. But then Teresa said, almost casually, "We can find a good spot for this at our house." I was stunned. Luke was busy looking at a set of fancy kitchen tools from his cousin and hadn't noticed. I shot him a look, silently begging him to say something. He just laughed and said, "Mom, that's our wedding gift," as if it were all a joke. "Oh, come on. It'll just collect dust here. We'll actually use it," Bradley added, putting his arm around Teresa. They both chuckled like it was no big deal. Trying to stay calm, I said, "Actually, I thought it would look really nice in our foyer." Teresa's face changed. She didn't laugh. Instead, she looked slightly irritated and said in a firm voice, "Brittany, you need to learn to share. We're family now, and families help each other." Her words felt more like a warning than advice. Luke noticed the shift and tried to smooth things over. "Let's not worry about this right now," he said quickly. "We've got plenty of gifts." But something inside me felt uneasy. It was the first time I realized that being part of Luke's family might come with more challenges than I expected. I nodded quietly, trying not to let my frustration show as Luke's parents continued picking out items they wanted from our wedding gifts. It felt like they were taking little pieces of my new life, and Luke wasn't doing anything to stop them. I had just become a wife, and already I felt like I was being pushed aside in my own home. The first year of our marriage passed by quickly. Before I knew it, our anniversary was around the corner. I wanted it to be special and unforgettable, so I made a reservation at Chat Louis, a cozy little restaurant we both loved. As a kind gesture, I also invited Luke's parents. I thought it would show them that they were welcome and important to us. When we arrived at the restaurant, Teresa and Bradley were already there, flipping through the menus. Teresa looked around the room with wide eyes and said, "This place is fancy." Her tone made me a little nervous, but I brushed it off. Luke gently squeezed my hand under the table, a small thank you for putting the evening together. I really hoped this dinner would bring us closer as a family. I wanted to start our second year of marriage with stronger bonds. I ordered the salmon, which I knew was Luke's favorite. But Teresa's eyes went straight to the most expensive dishes. Without hesitation, she told the waiter, "We'll have the lobster and the filet mignon." Bradley added with a grin, "And bring us a bottle of your best wine." I forced a smile, trying to keep things cheerful. "Quite the celebration, huh?" I said, hoping to lighten the mood. Luke just shrugged and said, "It's a special night. Let's not worry about the cost." As the dinner went on, Teresa and Bradley seemed to be having the time of their lives. They enjoyed every bite like it was a 6-star banquet. Meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking about how much the bill was going to be. It didn't feel like our anniversary anymore. It felt like they had taken over something that should have been just for us. When the check finally came, Luke's eyes widened for a moment. The total was much higher than expected, but he quickly hid his reaction and handed his card to the waiter without saying a word. As we walked out, Teresa hooked her arm through mine and smiled brightly. "Brittany, this was just lovely," she said with a satisfied voice. I smiled back, but inside, I felt like a guest at my own celebration. "We should do this again next year," Teresa had said after our anniversary dinner. I smiled politely, but my mind was already turning to the upcoming holidays. Thanksgiving was around the corner, and soon after, the entire holiday season would be in full swing. Luke and I had started decorating our home. We mixed warm autumn colors with a few early Christmas touches. It made our place feel cozy and inviting. One evening, while we were hanging lights around the living room windows, Luke's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and laughed. "My parents are already ahead of us," he said. "They just sent their Christmas wish list." "Wish list?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah, they send one every year." "It makes shopping easier," he replied, handing me his phone. I scrolled through the list, my eyebrows raising with each item. It wasn't a simple list. It was full of expensive electronics, designer clothes, and luxury items. It felt less like a wish list and more like a catalog order. "They can't be serious," I said, stunned. Luke shrugged as he took the phone back. "They like the good stuff. What can I say?" I didn't know how to respond. A tight feeling grew in my chest. I had been saving up to surprise Luke with a special watch he had admired for months. But now, the joy of gift-giving started to fade. It seemed like the holidays had become more about expensive presents than celebrating the love and moments that mattered most. When it was time for us to write our own holiday wish list, I joked, maybe we should just ask for donations to a charity in our name. Luke chuckled and said, "Good one. But seriously, you need a new laptop, right?" As Christmas got closer, I chose a thoughtful but practical gift for Teresa and Bradley, a high-quality coffee maker. It was nice, but not over the top. On Christmas morning, they handed me a small box. Inside was a set of scented candles. They smelled great, and I smiled, but the difference between what we gave and what we got was clear. Luke, on the other hand, looked thrilled with the high-tech drone they had given him. No one said anything, but the message was obvious. We were expected to give big, and in return, accept simple gestures. It didn't feel fair, but I kept my thoughts to myself. Bringing it up only caused tension, and I didn't want to ruin the holidays. So I stayed quiet. I wrapped presents, smiled through the celebrations, and kept the peace. But deep down, I started to wonder if the joy of the season was being replaced by pressure, expectations, and an uneven idea of what it meant to be family. I was sitting at my desk when I heard the familiar ping of an email. It was a notification about my quarterly bonus. I opened it quickly and smiled. The bonus was more than I expected. Right away, my mind went to Luke and me. Things had been a little tense between us lately, and I wanted to do something to bring back some joy and connection. We had often talked about going to Catania. It was our dream destination, full of beauty, charm, and romance. I thought this would be the perfect moment to finally make that dream come true. That evening, during dinner, I decided to surprise Luke with the news. "Guess what?" I said, smiling. "I booked us a trip to Catania." Luke's eyes lit up, and a big smile spread across his face. Catania? Really? That's amazing, babe. He stood up and gave me a kiss, clearly excited. I hadn't seen him that happy in a long time, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. But then his phone rang. It was his mother. I sat quietly as he answered, hoping he wouldn't tell her just yet. I wanted this trip to be just ours, at least for now. But I heard him say excitedly, "We're going to Catania." My heart sank a little. I watched his happy expression slowly turn into something more serious. I know, you've always wanted to go," he said. His smile faded as he listened. When he hung up, he looked at me with hesitation in his eyes. "They want to come with us," he said quietly. I froze, holding my fork in midair. "To Catania? With us?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Luke nodded. "They said they've never been, and it's always been their dream. They thought it would be nice to go together." The room suddenly felt small. I took a deep breath. "Luke, this was supposed to be our trip. Just us." He stayed quiet for a moment, then said, "I know, but they're getting older, and I feel guilty. They've done a lot for me." I thought about everything, the fancy dinners, the unfair gift exchanges, all the little things we had given up for them. "But this time is for us," I said firmly. "We can take them another time. I used this bonus to do something special for us." Luke sighed, the sound full of frustration. "They won't understand," he muttered. "You know how hard I've worked for this," I said, my voice low but full of emotion. "We need this. Just us." After a long silence, he finally nodded. "Okay, we'll tell them another time might work better." But when the time came to talk to them, Luke hesitated again. On speakerphone, Teresa immediately responded, "Why next year? We can afford it now." I couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Because this trip is for us, Teresa," I said. "Luke and I need this time together." I spoke up, unable to hide my frustration anymore. There was a short pause before Teresa replied sharply, "Well, that's very selfish of you, Brittany. Very selfish indeed." Her words cut through me. After the phone call ended, our home felt different, cold, quiet, and tense. Luke didn't say much. I could see he was torn between his parents and me, but I stayed firm. This trip to Catania was supposed to be our special moment, a dream we had both talked about for so long. I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from us. In the days that followed, Luke changed. He started leaving for work early and coming home late. When he walked through the door, I'd say, "Dinner's in the oven," my voice echoing through the quiet house. He would reply with a flat, "Thanks," and nothing more. Our words felt empty, like we were strangers living under the same roof. I missed him. I missed us. I missed the way we used to laugh together, dreaming on the couch about the places we'd visit, the life we were building. Now, it felt like a wall stood between us, an invisible barrier that kept us apart no matter how close we sat. One evening, things felt especially heavy. We sat at the dinner table, barely speaking. The only sound was his fork tapping his plate. The silence was painful. I couldn't take it anymore. "Luke, we can't keep going like this," I said quietly, afraid of making things worse. "We need to talk about what happened. We can't let this silence become our new normal." He didn't say anything at first. He just kept eating, his face hard to read. Then he set his fork down. I knew I had his attention, even if just for a moment. "What do you want me to say, Brittany?" he asked, sounding tired. "I want to understand why this has become such a big issue," I said gently. "Why does it feel like you're choosing them over me?" He let out a deep sigh and folded his hands. "They're my parents," he said softly. "They've always wanted to see Catania. It's a dream they've had forever." "And what about our dream?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What about the plans we've made, the things we've looked forward to together?" He ran a hand through his hair, something he always did when he was overwhelmed. "I know," he said. I feel responsible for them. They've done so much for me." "And where does that leave us?" I asked, leaning closer so he would really hear me. "What happens to our marriage if you keep putting them first?" He didn't answer right away. The silence that followed filled me with fear. Maybe we weren't as strong as I thought. Maybe this wasn't just about a trip. Maybe it was something deeper, something we had to face before we lost each other completely. I had always believed our relationship was strong, like it was built on solid rock. But now, it felt more like it was built on sand, easily washed away by the constant pressure from Luke's parents. I looked at him and spoke softly, trying to keep my voice calm, even though I was hurting inside. It's supposed to be us against the world, Luke. Not me against you and your parents. He finally looked at me, really looked at me. I could tell he was struggling, torn between me and them. I know, Brittany, he said with a sigh. I just don't know how to make everyone happy. That's the problem, I replied. We can't always make everyone happy. But we made promises to each other when we got married. Doesn't that mean something to you? He nodded slowly, staring down at the table before meeting my eyes. It does, he said. It means a lot. We finished the meal in a quiet that felt different. Not cold or angry like before, but thoughtful. It was as if my words had reached something inside him, something that had been asleep for a long time. Maybe I had finally made him think about where we were headed. The next morning, sunlight filled the room, but it felt cold and empty. I turned over in bed and noticed the other side was untouched. Luke hadn't come to bed. The house was still and silent, the kind of silence that makes your chest feel heavy. I rubbed my eyes and reached for my phone, expecting to see no messages, just another quiet day. But instead, the screen was full of alerts. One after another, all from my bank. I sat up quickly, my heart pounding. As I read the notifications, my chest tightened. There were multiple charges, expensive ones. Hotel bookings, airline tickets, and more. All charged to my account. My bonus money. My hands shook as I opened the emails. That's when I saw it clearly. 2 tickets to Catania. A hotel reservation. The flight had already left hours ago. Luke had taken the trip. But not with me. He had gone with his parents. The vacation we dreamed about. The one I planned. The one I paid for.
Gone.
And he left me behind. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. At first, I couldn't believe it. Then that disbelief quickly turned into anger and deep pain. I looked at my phone, still holding it tightly, trying to process what I had just discovered. Luke, the man I had trusted with everything, had used that trust to hurt me. He had access to my bank account, and he used my bonus money to take his parents to Catania. Without me. It was all right there, clear and undeniable. The emails, the bank charges, the hotel bookings, the flight. All proof of what he had done behind my back. My heart was racing, and my mind couldn't stop spinning. Luke was supposed to be the one person I could always count on. Now he felt like a stranger. With shaky hands, I dialed his number. I knew he wouldn't answer, especially with the time difference, and especially after our last argument. Still, I had to try. When his voicemail came on, sounding far too cheerful, I left a message. Luke, I saw the charges. You took your parents to Catania using my bonus.
I don't even know what to say.
I just hope it was worth it. I really do. When I ended the call, the house felt colder. The silence was louder than ever. It felt like the walls were closing in on me, full of all the words I had said, and all the ones I would never get the chance to say. I sat at the kitchen table alone. But inside, I was full of emotions, hurt, sadness, and a slow-growing strength. With a steady hand, I started canceling everything. The hotel, the return flights, every single thing connected to my money. One by one, I shut down each booking. And with each cancellation, I felt something shift. A small part of the old life I thought I had was fading away. Then, I called the bank and removed Luke's access from all my accounts. I didn't hesitate. Each step I took made me feel both scared and free. The man I had married, the family I had tried so hard to be part of, they weren't mine anymore. They had taken my kindness and used it for themselves. I started packing. Every shirt, every sweater, every memory went into a bag. I was done pretending this could be fixed. No sorry could undo what he had done. Luke had made his choice. And now I was making mine. I took off my wedding ring. It felt cold and heavy in my hand. It once meant love and trust. Now it meant betrayal. I placed it on the counter, watching how it sparkled in the light. It looked beautiful, but it didn't mean anything anymore. With one last look around, I closed the door. Not just on the house, but on everything that had broken me. I drove away with my car packed full of clothes and the things I needed most. Every item reminded me how quickly everything had changed. My heart was heavy, but I knew I was doing the right thing. As I drove, my phone started buzzing with messages. One was from Luke. Several were from his mother. I pulled over to read them, knowing they would only make me feel stronger about my decision. Luke's message was short. "Brittany, please. We need to talk. Can't we just discuss this?" His words felt empty, almost like a joke after everything that had happened. I started typing a reply, then stopped. Nothing I said could fix what he had done. There was too much damage. His mother's messages were a mix of confusion and excuses. She tried to explain their side, to make it all sound like a misunderstanding. But I didn't care. I had made up my mind and nothing she said would change it. I turned off my phone. They were across the world in Catania, enjoying a trip paid for with money they had no right to. They could figure out their own hotel problems. I had other things to focus on. First, I went to the bank. The manager, a kind woman in her 50s, greeted me with a warm smile. "I need to make sure my husband can't access my accounts anymore," I told her. My voice was calm, even though I didn't feel calm inside. She nodded. "Let's make sure you're fully protected." By the time I left the bank, I felt like I could breathe again. My money was safe, and I had taken the first real step toward taking control of my life. Next, I drove to my sister Kayla's house. She opened the door before I even knocked and pulled me into a big hug. "Brittany, I've been so worried," she said, her voice full of concern. We sat at her kitchen table, and I told her everything. She shook her head in disbelief. "You deserve better than this," she said firmly. "I know," I replied, feeling the truth of it. "That's why I'm not going back. I've canceled everything. I left the house. I'm done." She squeezed my hand, her eyes full of both anger and pride. "Good for you. So, what now?" I looked around her familiar kitchen and felt a bit of peace return. "I'm starting by filing for divorce. I can't stay married to someone who doesn't respect me." "Do you need a lawyer?" Kayla asked, already ready to help. "I'll find one," I said. "Someone who doesn't know Luke or his family. I want a clean break." We unpacked my car together and talked about the next few days. Doing normal things helped calm me down. Later, standing in her kitchen with a warm cup of coffee, my phone buzzed again. It was another message from Luke. "Brittany, we need to talk. I'm sorry, but I was already moving forward. I miss you, and I think we can fix this," Luke wrote. I sighed. He had said, "I'm sorry," so many times that the words now felt weak, like an old blanket full of holes. "Not this time, Luke," I whispered to myself as I typed my reply. I kept it short and clear. "There's nothing left to talk about. Please respect my decision." After I sent the message, everything went quiet. But the silence didn't change how I felt. I was done. That decision was tested just a few days later. Luke's parents showed up at my sister's house. Their faces were filled with anger. Before Kayla or I could react, they pushed past the front door. "You've got some nerve, Brittany," his mother shouted. "You ruined our family trip. You're nothing but greedy and selfish." Before I could speak, Kayla stepped in front of me. She stood tall, her voice calm but firm. "That's enough," she said. "You don't get to come into my house and insult my sister." Things got louder fast. The shouting drew attention. Neighbors peeked out of their windows, watching the scene unfold. The fight was intense, but Kayla didn't back down, and neither did I. This wasn't just an argument. It was the final moment that showed me I was right to leave. I had no doubts anymore. I didn't belong in their world, and they had no place in mine. When things got out of hand, Kayla stepped forward and said, "If you don't leave now, I'll call the police." That finally made them turn around and leave. But even after they were gone, the air in the house felt heavy. Still, Underneath all the stress, I felt something strong growing inside me. I knew for sure I was done. Filing for divorce felt cold and slow, like walking through a long hallway with no color. I sat through meetings, signed paper after paper, and listened to lawyers talk about property and accounts. Every time I signed a document, it felt like I was cutting a rope that had tied me to someone who didn't deserve me. When it was all over, I stepped out of the courthouse. The sun was shining, and a soft breeze blew through my hair. Kayla was waiting for me with open arms. She pulled me into a hug. "You did it, Brittany," she said with pride in her voice. "Yes," I whispered back. "I really did." I had stood up to people who tried to control me. I had broken free from lies and manipulation. And now I was finally free to start over on my own terms. I walked away from the courthouse without looking back. That part of my life was over. It no longer had any power over me. Luke kept sending messages for a while.
First, he apologized.
Then he begged. Later, he got angry. But I didn't open any of them. I didn't need to. I was moving forward, and those messages were part of a past I had left behind. I found a small apartment to rent. It wasn't fancy, but it was bright and full of sunlight. I filled it with green plants, put books on the shelves, and began creating new, happy memories. For the first time in a long time, this space felt like mine. Peaceful.
Safe.
I also signed up for some classes, something I had wanted to do for years but kept putting off. Learning new things reminded me of who I was before all the chaos. I was excited again, not just about the classes, but about life. One quiet evening, I sat on my little balcony with a warm cup of tea in my hands. The breeze was soft, and everything felt calm. As I looked at the sunset, I opened my phone and deleted Luke's number. It was just a small act, but it meant a lot to me. It was my way of saying, I'm done. In that moment, I felt truly free. Free to heal from what hurt me. Free to grow into someone stronger. And most of all, free to be myself without guilt, without fear, and without anyone holding me back. Every day, I felt a little more confident, a little more at peace. I was no longer tied to the past. I was creating a new life, one full of choices that were mine alone. And I was finally ready to see where that life would take me. I was standing at the kitchen sink, scraping the last bit of salad dressing into a plastic container. I wasn't really thinking about anything, just cleaning up. That's when Mom spoke. She sounded calm, like she was reading the weather report or something normal like that. We're out of oat milk again, she said. Can you pick some up on your way home from work? I didn't look up. I just closed the lid on the container and asked, is the oat milk for you, or is it for Teresa and her hormones? Mom didn't laugh. She never does when it comes to Teresa. It's for her tea, she said as she folded the grocery list neatly, like it was something important, like a church program. She needs to relax before her flight. I stopped what I was doing. What flight? To West Bay, she answered, like it was common knowledge. Didn't she tell you? There was a short pause. Then she added, it's for her women's retreat. Nicaragua. The cold air is supposed to help with stress and hormone levels or something. The water was still running. My hands were wet. I slowly turned around to face her. She's going to Nicaragua? Mom blinked, like I had asked something strange. Just for a few days. It's a spa resort. Everything is natural and healthy. She's been very stressed lately, Jessica. I just stared at her. Nicaragua. A spa. All natural.
Stressed.
That's the word Mom used, stressed. Not lazy. Not out of work for over a year and a half. Not the reason I've been paying for the mortgage, the groceries, the phone, the lights, and now apparently the oat milk too. All for Teresa's relaxation in Nicaragua. How is she paying for it? I asked. She won it, Mom answered quickly. A raffle or something online. Of course. I repeated her words slowly. She won a retreat to Nicaragua in a raffle. Yes, Mom said again. Then, after a short silence, she added, don't sound so doubtful, Jessica. She deserves something nice. I dried my hands slowly. The dish towel got stuck on my ring for a second. I looked at her and said, when I got promoted to team lead last year, do you remember what you said? You said congratulations, and then asked if I could help with the water bill. That was all. Mom's face changed. She looked upset. That's not fair, she said. No, I replied. It isn't. Just then, I heard the sound of keys in the hallway. Teresa walked into the kitchen like it was her own stage. She was smiling, full of energy, wearing a big winter coat, the kind made for snowy places. And that's when it really hit me. She was actually going to Nicaragua. I gave her that winter coat last Christmas. She said it was boring back then. But now, she looked amazing in it. She walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge like she owned the place. Where's the oat milk? She asked. I didn't say anything. Mom handed her a folded grocery list. Jessica's picking some up. Teresa smiled and kissed Mom on the cheek. Thanks, sis, she said without even looking at me. Then she walked out the door, light on her feet like she had no care in the world. I just stood there and watched the door close behind her. The silence in the kitchen after she left felt heavier than before, like it had weight. I thought she didn't have any money, I finally said. She needed the trip, Mom replied right away. You don't understand how hard it's been for her, staying home all day. I didn't argue. The sink was still running. I didn't turn it off. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Not just the trip. Not just the oat milk. Things had been feeling wrong for a long time. I just didn't want to admit it. Not yet. But that was about to change. The next day, I searched online. I typed in Nicaragua retreat raffle just to check if it was a real thing. It wasn't. I wasn't shocked. Something told me it was made up. Later that evening, during dinner, I asked Mom again. I made it sound casual. She was warming up a frozen meal, pretending it was homemade. She always did that when she wanted to act like everything at home was fine. So, what kind of raffle did Teresa win? I asked. Mom blinked. Then she stared at the microwave like it had said something strange. Just a travel sweepstakes, she said. You know how Teresa is with those online contests. She's always entering something. I took a bite of the meatloaf.
It was dry.
I chewed slowly and said, That's funny. She usually brags about things like that. Mom looked at me quickly. She probably didn't want to upset you. You've been working so hard lately. That was new, Mom worrying about how I felt. I'm not upset, I said. And I wasn't, not really. I was tired. Tired of always being the one to pick up the pieces. Tired of being the one who keeps everything going in the background, like a machine that no one notices unless it stops working. The next morning I was in a work meeting when I got a phone call. It was from the credit card company. And that's when everything really started to come apart. When I saw the number appear on my phone screen, I let it ring 4 times before picking up. Something inside me said I shouldn't wait. This is Judy from Gold Line Credit, a woman said. Her voice was polite but serious. We're calling to check on some recent activity on your account. I quietly stepped out of the room. What kind of activity? I asked. There have been several large purchases made in West Bay, Nicaragua, she said. Luxury hotel stays, spa treatments, shopping. We're just checking to confirm that you're traveling. I closed my eyes. No, I said. I'm not. There was a pause on her end. Would you like to freeze the card? She asked. Yes, I said right away. In just 4 days, $38,000 had been charged to my credit card. I couldn't believe it. I looked through the email she sent with the list of charges. There were bills for a fancy hotel, a private tour, a hot spring spa, for different restaurants, and something called a glacier helicopter trip. I forwarded the email to myself and then printed it at home. I left the pages on the kitchen table, right where Mom always reads her newspaper. I didn't say a word that evening. When I came home from work, the house felt oddly quiet. Mom was folding laundry with extra care, like she wanted everything to look neat. Dad, who barely talked unless he was watching sports, cleared his throat. She didn't mean anything by it, he said. I didn't respond. The card was just sitting there, Mom added. You always leave it out. It's not like she stole it. I picked up one of the printed pages and held it up. $38,000 in 4 days, I said. She thought it was going to expire, Mom said quickly. She didn't want it to go to waste. I stared at her. She said that. Mom paused. More or less. I didn't say anything else. I just picked up the pages and went upstairs. Later, I checked my voicemail. It was from Teresa. Her voice was cheerful. Hey, sis, she said. Looks like the card stopped working.
Can you fix that?
I still need to book the ice cave tour. Love you. She hung up without waiting for me to answer. I didn't tell Mom or Dad right away that I had frozen the card. They found out the next morning when Teresa called from her hotel. Mom was in the living room, pouring her third cup of coffee. The mug she was using had the words "Grateful Heart" written on it. She says her card isn't working, Mom said, holding the phone to her ear. I didn't reply. I just stood there, watching her, waiting for someone else in the house to finally say what I had known for a while. Something had gone too far. I didn't look up from my laptop. No, the card isn't working, I said. Mom blinked. You turned it off? I reported it stolen, I answered, staying calm. Dad spoke from his chair. That seems a little extreme. She took it without asking, I replied. That's called stealing, last I checked. Mom's voice got tight. You always go too far. Teresa called again. I saw her name on my phone, but didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Seriously, Cass? You canceled the card? I already booked stuff. That's really immature. I was going to get you something. That last part made me laugh, and I didn't even know why. Maybe because she said it like it mattered. Like buying me a cheap gift from a tourist shop would somehow make up for using $38,000 without asking. Later that day, Mom knocked on my bedroom door. She hadn't done that in years. We need to talk, she said. I closed the laptop. She walked in and sat down like she still had some kind of control in this house. She's stuck now, Mom said. She's in a 7-star hotel with no money. She can't even get food. She ordered truffle risotto last night, I said. It's on the bill. She's your sister, Mom replied, as if that explained everything. I knew that line well. Family first. Older sister means backup plan. I sat up straighter. Do you remember when I was in college? I asked. When I got a stomach ulcer from working 4 jobs at once? Mom looked uneasy. You're bringing that up now. I called you crying, I said. I needed help paying a hospital bill. It was $3,000. She said nothing. You told me Teresa needed braces more, I said. Mom pressed her hands together. That was a different time? It was always a different time, I said quietly. She looked older just then. Not just tired, but like someone who had been pretending for a long time and couldn't anymore. The lines around her eyes weren't just from age, they looked like they came from years of holding everything in. Then she did something I didn't expect. She reached across and placed her hand on mine. I know we didn't always treat you fairly, she said. But right now, she really needs you. I didn't move my hand away, but I didn't agree either. I thought about Teresa's voicemail. The tone in her voice. The way she said, fix it, like I was some kind of helper, not her sister. In that moment, I realized something. Teresa didn't think she had done anything wrong. And maybe, just maybe, Mom didn't either. I thought back to when I turned 17. On that birthday, they gave Teresa a car. I got a savings bond. They smiled like both gifts were equal, but even at 17, I knew they weren't. Then I remembered the time Teresa borrowed my rent money. She said it was to start a business. A week later, she went to a concert with her friends. I saw the photos online, and I thought about the house. The one we all lived in. The deed was sitting in a drawer upstairs. Dad signed it over to me 5 years ago when he couldn't afford the back taxes. The deal was simple. If I paid the debt, I owned the house. I did pay. Every month.
On time.
Quietly. I thought about all those things, and then I smiled. Okay, I said. Mom looked up. She looked surprised. Then a bit relieved. You'll help. I stood up and walked over to my dresser. I pulled open the top drawer and reached to the back. I took out a card. It was black, clean, and never used before. This one's still active, I said, handing it to her. Book whatever she needs. She took it like it was a gift. Like it made everything better again. I watched her leave the room holding that card like it was something precious. Then I picked up my phone and called someone I hadn't spoken to in a while. "Hi, Grandma," I said. "Are you still looking for help in the cafe kitchen?" The next few days were quiet in a strange way. Teresa's calls slowed down. After the third voicemail, her tone had changed. She went from cheerful to annoyed, then to something else. Like she was trying to sound sorry without actually saying the word sorry. There were long sighs and pauses in her voice. She seemed to think that was enough. Mom also started acting different. She was softer, not giving orders so much. She offered me a cup of coffee when I got home. She asked how work was, but didn't wait for an answer. Still, it was a change. And me? I nodded. I smiled. I said yes when they asked for small things. I handed over a card. It wasn't the gold card. That one was frozen and gone. This was the black one. It had been sitting in my drawer for over a year. I got it after a client event but never used it. I activated it and set a spending limit. Then I gave it to them. "She still has a few things to cover," I said calmly. "Flights, meals, whatever." Mom looked like she had just received another chance. She didn't ask why this card was different. She didn't ask why I used it now after all this time. She didn't ask anything at all. And that's when I realized she still thought she was in charge. She still thought the game was the same. But I knew it wasn't. I was still playing my part. The next night, Teresa sent me a text message. "Card's working. You're the best. I'm bringing back a surprise." I didn't reply. Instead, I packed 4 boxes. Just the important things: clothes, books, papers. The things that really mattered. Everything else could be replaced or left behind. Then I went online and booked a moving company for the following Tuesday. The next morning, I called a realtor. Her name was Judy. We had met once at a business event about 4 years ago. To my surprise, she remembered me. She asked how the house was doing. I told her I was ready to let it go. I didn't tell her the full story. She didn't need to know all the details. All she needed to hear was that the deed had my name on it, I was the only owner, and I planned to be out by Tuesday. She said she already had a buyer who had been waiting for a house on this street for months. We set up a time for the walkthrough. Later that day, I went into the garage and found the tax transfer papers Dad had signed years ago. I had kept them in an old folder labeled temporary. I never even bothered to change the name on the folder. Upstairs, I walked down the hallway and stopped at a framed photo from Christmas 8 years ago. We were all in it, kind of. I had been cropped at the edge. You could barely see my shoulder. That used to hurt. Now it made sense. I had never really been in the picture. Just close enough to be useful. Close enough to fill the empty space. I didn't tell anyone I was moving.
Not yet.
I left the house key under a rock in the garden for the movers. I labeled the boxes clearly. Kitchen, documents, and one that said, "Don't lose." Then I got in my car and drove. I went to Grandma's. She opened the door like she had been waiting for me. She didn't ask why I was there. She didn't act surprised. She just gave me a little nod and a soft smile that didn't fully reach her eyes. "I have 3 rooms," she said, "and no time for drama." I smiled back. Perfect. Inside, the house smelled like flour, tomatoes, and old wood. The kitchen was noisy, full of clattering dishes, people giving orders in English, Spanish, and something in between. Her cafe was still the same. Her rules were still the same too. She looked at me seriously. "You ready?" "Not yet," I said. "But I will be." She wiped her hands on a towel and looked me straight in the eyes. "They'll come looking," she said. And I nodded because I already knew. When they came back, I was ready. It was a Saturday afternoon. The sky was half cloudy, half blue. I heard the sound of suitcase wheels rolling over the walkway. It almost sounded like a warning. I wasn't inside the house. I was sitting outside on the porch swing waiting. Teresa got out of the car first. She was smiling like we were best friends or sisters who talked all the time. "You came to pick us up?" she asked.
I didn't say anything.
Dad carried the bags, and Mom walked up the steps. She reached into her purse and pulled out her keys. She tried to unlock the front door. It didn't work. She tried again. Still nothing. Then she looked at me, confused. "Did you change the door code?" "No," I said. "I changed the lock." She blinked.
Why?
Because you don't live here anymore. She gave that dry, fake laugh she always used when she was nervous. Jessica, come on. I stood up slowly and walked down the steps toward her. I handed her a large manila envelope. Inside were the signed papers from the house sale, proof of the wire transfer, and the official closing documents. Judy, the realtor, had moved quickly. The new buyers were moving in on Monday. I sold it, I said. Teresa frowned. Sold what?
The house.
Her smile disappeared like glass shattering on the ground. You can't do that, she said loudly. That's illegal. This is Dad's house. Dad opened the envelope. He didn't even finish reading the first page before his face went pale. He sat down on the curb like he couldn't catch his breath. Jessica, you signed the deed over to me 6 years ago, I said. Remember? When the IRS showed up, he opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't say anything else. Mom's voice got sharp. You had no right. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel scared or small. I paid the back taxes, I said. I paid the mortgage, the bills. I fixed the roof, the plumbing, the broken heater. I kept this house standing for 6 years. You just lived in it. Teresa stepped closer. So, where are we supposed to go? I handed her another envelope. She opened it. Inside was a set of house keys, a handwritten note, and an address. The note was from Grandma. It said, room upstairs. Work starts at 6. Apron on by 4:37. Mom stared at the paper like she couldn't understand it. You sent our stuff to your grandmother's house? She asked. No, I said. I sent your things to your mother's house. She agreed to take you in, but only if you help out. Teresa scoffed. You really think she can tell me what to do? What to do? I said. She's been telling you what to do since before you were born. That was when Dad finally spoke. What about the card? He asked. I turned to him. Which one? The black one, he said. The one we used. Oh, I said, that one wasn't mine. Teresa froze.
What?
That card was yours. No, I said, looking right at her. It was yours. You opened it 3 years ago, remember? Right after you quit that copywriting job. You left the card in a drawer. I never used it, she said quickly. You did now, I said calmly. She looked down at the paper in her hand, then back at me. You're lying. I didn't say anything. Just then, the moving truck pulled into the driveway. The new owners stepped out of their car. They looked happy, a couple holding a baby with a little dog bouncing around them. I turned back to my family. You have 4 days to move out. Grandma's guest rooms are ready. Mom opened her mouth like she was going to say something, but then closed it again. I didn't wait around to hear what came next. I walked to my car, started the engine, and drove away. No long speech. No big goodbye. The house was already gone. And now so was I. After that, everything went quiet. No calls, no voicemails, no surprise visits at night. Just peace. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't fancy. Just 3 rooms, soft lighting, and no shared walls. But it was mine. And it was quiet, the kind of quiet you forget you miss until it's yours to keep. Work got better. I didn't feel the need to check my bank account 3 times a day. I didn't jump when my phone rang. I even bought flowers for my kitchen table, not because it was anyone's birthday, just because I liked how they looked. One morning, Grandma called. She doesn't waste time with small talk. They're adjusting, she said. I didn't ask who. I already knew. Your mom is washing dishes slower than I like, but she's doing it. Your dad learned how to fold napkins badly. And your sister? She finally figured out how to clock in on time. I didn't say anything. Grandma let out a small sigh. They're not perfect, but they're changing. Some things you only learn through hard work. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I felt guilty, just because I felt something else, something I hadn't noticed I was carrying. A kind of waiting that had been sitting deep inside me for a long time. The next week, I stopped by Grandma's cafe. I didn't go to talk. I just wanted to see. The back door was open. The smells of garlic, oil, and baking bread floated out and wrapped around me like a warm coat. I hadn't worn those shoes in years. But that day, I found myself standing outside Grandma's cafe again. I looked through the kitchen window. Inside, I saw them. Teresa was wiping down the counter. Her hair was tied back, and her sleeves were rolled up. Dad was folding paper menus into neat little piles. Mom had her hands in soapy water, her mouth pressed into a tight line. None of them looked up. No one noticed me standing there. I didn't go inside. I just stood there watching, not angry, not sad, not even feeling sorry for them. I felt clear. They looked like people who were finally learning to carry their share of the weight. For once, no one was reaching into my life, asking me to save them. No one was expecting me to fix everything. I turned and walked back to my car. Later that week, I got a letter. It was handwritten, and the envelope had my name written in neat, careful cursive. I hadn't seen handwriting like that since I was a kid. It was from Mom. Inside, there was only one sentence. You were right. I just didn't want you to be. No apology. No excuses. But it was enough. I folded the letter and placed it in an old shoebox. Inside the box were a few other things I hadn't thrown out yet, an old photo, a birthday card from Grandma, and the receipt for the back taxes. I paid the year they almost lost the house. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just closed the lid and placed the box back on the shelf. The months passed. The seasons changed. I didn't hear much from them, but every once in a while I got updates from Grandma or someone at church. Teresa had picked up a second job. Dad finally fixed the leaking pipes at the cafe. Mom had started baking again, something she hadn't done in years. I didn't feel anything big about it, just something small, like the ground under me had finally stopped shaking. One Thursday afternoon, I walked past our old house. It had new paint on the outside. There were fresh flowers in the garden. A tricycle sat in the driveway, bright red and well-used. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. Because this wasn't a story about going back to what I used to have. It wasn't about getting even or hearing, I'm sorry, 100 different ways. It was about leaving before I lost myself completely. It was about walking away while I still could and making sure no one ever made me feel invisible again.
You know that moment when you realize you've made the biggest mistake of your life? Mine happened at a baby shower. Not my baby shower, because the baby growing inside me wasn't technically mine. I was just the vessel, the generous sister, the family hero. God, I was such an idiot. My name is Tori, and 6 months ago, I thought I was doing the most beautiful thing in the world. My younger sister, Bridget, had been trying to get pregnant for 2 years with no luck. The doctors said her chances were slim, and watching her cry every month when her period came was like watching someone slowly break apart. Tori, you're the only person I trust with this, she'd said, gripping my hands across the kitchen table. You're the strongest person I know. You've always taken care of me. Caden, her husband, nodded earnestly beside her. We'd be forever grateful. This would complete our family. I should mention that Bridget has always been the golden child, the pretty one, the charming one, the one who could talk her way out of anything. Me? I'm the responsible older sister who fixes problems and pays bills on time. I manage construction projects for a living, which basically means I'm professional at cleaning up other people's messes. So when they asked me to carry their baby, it felt like the most important thing I'd ever been asked to do. Of course, I'd said without hesitation. Of course I'll do this for you. The paperwork was extensive. Contracts, medical forms, legal documents that made my head spin. But Bridget was so excited, bouncing around the lawyer's office like a kid on Christmas morning. This is really happening, she kept saying. We're going to be parents. The pregnancy took on the first try. Bridget cried happy tears when I called her with the news. Caden whooped so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. For months, everything was perfect. They came to every doctor's appointment, holding hands in the waiting room like teenagers. Bridget would put her hand on my belly and talk to the baby about all the adventures they'd have together. She bought tiny clothes and decorated the nursery with more enthusiasm than I'd seen from her about anything. "You're glowing," Mom would say whenever she saw me. "This is such a blessing for the whole family." Mom, Seela, was nervous about the whole arrangement, but she tried to be supportive. She'd hover during family dinners, asking if I needed anything, if I was eating enough, if the baby was moving normally. Her anxiety was exhausting, but I understood it. This wasn't exactly conventional. My best friend Ivy was more direct about her concerns. "Are you sure about this?" she asked early on. Like, really sure? Because once that baby comes, everything changes. "It's Bridget," I'd replied. "She's my sister. She'd do the same for me." Ivy had given me a look I couldn't quite read. Would she, though? I'd brushed off her doubt. Ivy had never really understood my relationship with Bridget. She didn't grow up with us, didn't see how Bridget used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, or how she'd beg me to read her stories when Mom was working late shifts. Bridget needed protecting, and I was good at protecting people. But looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way Bridget started checking her phone constantly during doctor visits. How she'd mention friends who were traveling to Europe, or buying new cars. The subtle shift in her voice when she talked about the baby. Less excitement, more obligation. "Sarah just got back from Thailand," she'd say, scrolling through Instagram. "The pictures are incredible. I can't remember the last time Caden and I went anywhere exotic." "You'll travel when the baby's older," I'd reassure her. "Lots of families do that." She'd nod, but something in her expression had already started to change. The baby shower was Bridget's idea. She wanted to celebrate, she said, show everyone how grateful she was. I sat in the chair of honor, opening gifts that would go to my sister's house, accepting congratulations for a baby I'd hand over in 3 months. "You're amazing for doing this," everyone kept saying. "What a gift you're giving them." I felt proud, useful, like I was finally the star of the family story instead of just the supporting character. I thought being a surrogate was the most selfless thing I could do. Turns out, it would also be the act that broke me, but made me unstoppable. Because 3 weeks after that baby shower, everything fell apart. The restaurant was one of those trendy places with exposed brick and overpriced salads. Bridget had picked it, of course. She was already seated when I waddled in, my 6-month belly making everything awkward. Caden stood up to pull out my chair, all smiles and gentleman manners. "You look great, Tori," he said. "Really glowing." "Thanks." I settled into the chair with a grunt. This little one's been doing gymnastics all morning. Bridget barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, that's nice. The server came over and we ordered. I got the salmon, doctor's orders for omega-3s. Bridget ordered a salad she'd probably pick at, and Caden got a burger. Normal lunch, normal conversation about work and the weather. Then Bridget put her phone down and looked at me with this weird expression. "So, we need to talk about something," she said. "Okay." I took a sip of water. "What's up?" She glanced at Caden, who suddenly became very interested in his napkin. "Well, we've been thinking a lot about everything." Everything meaning the baby situation. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What about it?" Bridget leaned forward, her voice taking on that sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "You know how much we appreciate what you're doing. You're incredible, really. But we've realized that maybe this isn't the right time for us." The words didn't make sense. I stared at her. "What do you mean, not the right time?" "We're just in a different place now than we were 6 months ago," Caden said, finally speaking up. "Our priorities have shifted." "Shifted how?" Bridget waved her hand like she was swatting away a fly. "We want to travel more, experience life before we get tied down. Kids are such a huge responsibility, and we're not sure we're ready for that level of commitment." I felt like I was underwater, everything muffled and strange. "Bridget, I'm 6 months pregnant. With your baby." "Well, technically it's not our baby yet," she said. I mean, legally speaking. What the hell does that mean? It means we've changed our minds, Caden said. People are allowed to change their minds. I looked back and forth between them. Bridget was examining her manicure. Caden was staring at his burger like it held the secrets of the universe. Are you serious right now? My voice came out louder than I intended. A couple at the next table glanced over. Don't make a scene, Bridget hissed. We're just being honest about our feelings. Your feelings? I pressed my hands against my belly. I'm carrying your child. I've been throwing up for months. My back is killing me. I can't sleep. I had to buy a whole new wardrobe. And we're grateful, Bridget interrupted. But we can't force ourselves to want something we don't want anymore. So what exactly are you suggesting? She shrugged. You'll figure something out. You're good at that. You always land on your feet. The casual cruelty of it hit me like a slap. You want me to just, what? Keep the baby? Or don't, Caden said. That's your choice to make. My choice? I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. This was never supposed to be my choice. This was your dream, your family, your... Lower your voice, Bridget snapped. People are staring. Let them stare. I was shaking now, rage and disbelief coursing through me. You asked me to do this. You begged me. I put my entire life on hold for you. Nobody forced you, Bridget said coldly. You volunteered. Because you're my sister. Because I thought you actually wanted this baby. We did want it. Past tense. Things change, Tori. Grow up. I stared at her. This person who looked like my sister but felt like a stranger. Who are you? I'm someone who's honest about what she wants instead of just going along with everyone else's expectations. Honest? I laughed, but it came out harsh and bitter. You've been planning this, haven't you? Both of you. How long have you been waiting to drop this bomb? Neither of them answered. How long, Bridget? A few weeks, she mumbled. A few weeks. I grabbed my purse. Unbelievable. Where are you going? Caden asked. Away from you two. I started walking toward the exit, then turned back. And just so we're clear, this isn't over. Not even close. I made it to my car before the tears started. Sitting in the parking lot, sobbing into my steering wheel, I felt something I'd never felt toward my sister before. Pure, burning hatred. That's when I noticed the manila folder on my passenger seat. The surrogacy contract I'd grabbed from my kitchen counter that morning, meaning to file it away. I opened it with shaking hands and started reading. I called Ivy before I even left the parking lot. They what? She screamed into the phone. Are you kidding me right now? I wish I was. I wiped my nose with a napkin from the glove compartment. They just sat there and told me they changed their minds. Like I'm returning a sweater. Those absolute pieces of, where are you right now? Still at the restaurant. In my car. Stay there. I'm coming to get you. Ivy, you don't need to. Like hell I don't. Don't move. She hung up. 20 minutes later, her red Honda pulled up next to me. She got out and marched over to my car, yanking open the passenger door. Move over. I'm driving. I can drive myself home. You're 6 months pregnant and having a breakdown. Move. I didn't argue. Ivy had that tone that meant business. She drove us to her apartment, helped me up the stairs, and immediately started making tea. Tell me everything, she said, slamming mugs onto the counter. Every single word. I recounted the lunch from hell while she paced around her kitchen like a caged animal. I never liked her, Ivy said when I finished. I know she's your sister, but I never liked her. Remember when we were in college and she borrowed your car for the weekend without asking? That was different. She was young. She was 22. And what about when she promised to help plan your birthday party and then bailed because some guy asked her out? Ivy? Or when she convinced you to lend her $3,000 for that business opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme? I stared at her. How do you remember all this stuff? Because I pay attention when my best friend gets screwed over. She sat down across from me. Bridget has been using you your entire life, and you keep letting her because you think that's what big sisters do. She's family. So what? Family doesn't give you a free pass to be a terrible person. Ivy leaned forward. What are you going to do? I don't know. Keep the baby, I guess. Figure out how to be a single mom. Wrong answer. What do you mean, wrong answer? I mean, you're not just rolling over and taking this. They can't do this to you. They already did. No, they can't legally do this to you. You signed a contract, right? They have obligations. I pulled the folder out of my purse. I was just looking at this. It's all legal jargon. I don't understand half of it. Ivy grabbed the papers and started flipping through them. Look at this. The intended parents agree to provide full financial support for the child, including but not limited to medical expenses, education, and living costs until the age of 18. And here, the intended parents acknowledge full legal and financial responsibility for the child, regardless of changed circumstances. What does that mean? It means they can't just walk away. They signed this thing, Tori. They're on the hook whether they want to be or not. But they said a lot of things. Doesn't make them true. Ivy pulled out her phone. I'm Googling family lawyers right now. Ivy, you can't afford not to. This is war, Tori. They declared it when they ambushed you at lunch. While she searched, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 texts from Bridget. The text made my blood boil. Hope you're not being dramatic about this. We can talk when you calm down. Also, please don't involve Mom. This is between us. Too late for that, I muttered, showing Ivy the messages. Oh, she's got some nerve. Ivy looked up from her phone. Found one. Lana Kelly. She specializes in reproductive law and family disputes. 5-star reviews, and look at this testimonial. She destroyed my ex-husband in court. Highly recommend. I don't want to destroy anyone. I just want... What? What do you want, Tori? I looked down at my belly, feeling the baby kick. I want them to take responsibility for what they created. I want them to face consequences for once in their lives. Then call this lawyer. My phone rang. Mom. Hi, Mom. Tori, honey. Bridget just called me. She's very upset. She says you had some kind of argument? She told you her version already? She said there was a misunderstanding about the baby arrangements. A misunderstanding. I laughed bitterly. Is that what she called it? Maybe you could all sit down and talk this through calmly. No, Mom. No more talking. No more sitting down. No more being calm while Bridget does whatever she wants and expects everyone else to clean up the mess. Tori, please. She's your sister. She stopped being my sister the moment she told me to figure it out about the baby I'm carrying for her. There was silence on the other end. Mom? I'm sure she didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. I looked at Ivy, who was nodding encouragingly. I have to go. I have a lawyer to call. I hung up and dialed Lana Kelly's office. Kelly Law Firm, this is Sarah. Hi, I need to speak with Lana about a surrogacy dispute. It's urgent. She has an opening tomorrow at 10. Can I get your name? Tori. And tell her it involves a couple trying to abandon their parental responsibilities. Oh. The receptionist's voice sharpened with interest. She'll definitely want to hear about that. Lana Kelly's office was nothing like I expected. Instead of stuffy leather and dark wood, it was bright and modern with plants everywhere. Lana herself was younger than I'd imagined, maybe mid-30s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense handshake. Tell me everything, she said, settling behind her desk with a legal pad. I walked her through the whole story. She took notes, occasionally asking questions that made me realize how calculated Bridget and Caden's behavior had been. When did they first mention changing their minds? Lana asked. At lunch yesterday. But looking back, Bridget's been making comments for weeks about wanting to travel, about feeling tied down. And they suggested you figure something out regarding the baby? Those were Bridget's exact words. Lana leaned back in her chair. I've seen this before. Intended parents who treat surrogacy like a shopping trip until they realize babies aren't returnable merchandise. So what can I do? Plenty. She flipped through my contract. This is ironclad. They're legally bound to accept parental responsibility and provide full financial support. We can file a petition for declaratory judgment, establishing their parental obligations. What does that mean in regular English? It means we drag them to court and make a judge tell them they can't abandon their child. My phone buzzed. A text from Caden. Can we talk? This has gotten out of hand. I showed Lana the message. She smiled. Not a nice smile. Too late for that, she said. I'll file the paperwork today. Fair warning, this is going to get messy. They'll probably hire their own lawyer. Try to claim the contract is invalid somehow. Can they do that? They can try, but this contract was drafted by a reputable firm. You all had independent legal counsel, and there's clear documentation of their intent. They don't have a leg to stand on. I left Lana's office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope and anger. Lots of anger. That feeling lasted exactly until I got home and found Caden's father, Maxwell, sitting on my front porch. Tori, he stood up, all 6 feet of intimidating presence. We need to talk. I don't think we do. My son tells me you're threatening legal action over the surrogacy situation. Your son and his wife abandoned their parental responsibilities. I'm not threatening anything. I'm taking action. Maxwell stepped closer. Now listen here, young lady. This family has a reputation to maintain. We're not going to let some vindictive lawsuit drag our name through the mud. Vindictive? I fumbled for my keys. I'm 6 months pregnant with your grandchild, and your son told me to figure it out when I asked what happens to the baby. Caden's young. He made a mistake, but this legal nonsense isn't the answer. What is the answer, Maxwell? Because I'm all ears. We'll pay for the medical expenses, of course, and if you decide to keep the child, we'll discuss some kind of support arrangement. Some kind of support arrangement. I finally got my door open. How generous. Don't be sarcastic with me. I'm trying to be reasonable. Reasonable would have been your son not abandoning his responsibilities in the first place. Maxwell's face darkened. You're making a big mistake, Tori. My family has resources, connections. You really want to go to war with us? Are you threatening me? I'm advising you. Drop this lawsuit and we can work something out privately. Push this, and you'll find out what it's like to fight people who can afford better lawyers than you can. I stepped inside and turned to face him. You know what, Maxwell? Bring it on, because I've got something your money can't buy. What's that? The truth, and a really pissed off lawyer who specializes in cases like this. I slammed the door and immediately called Lana. Maxwell was just here, I said when she answered. Caden's father. He basically threatened me. What kind of threats? The vague, intimidating kind. Said his family has resources and connections. Asked if I really wanted to go to war with them. Idiots. They just handed us more ammunition. I'm adding harassment to our filing. Can they really make this harder for me? They can try to throw money at the problem, but money doesn't change facts, and the facts are on our side. That evening, Ivy came over with takeout and wine. Sparkling cider for me. So how'd it go with the lawyer? Good. She's filing papers tomorrow. I picked at my lo mein, but Caden's dad showed up here afterward, tried to intimidate me. Seriously? What did you tell him? To bring it on. Ivy grinned. That's my girl. What about Bridget? Heard from her? I checked my phone. She's been posting on Instagram all day. Look at this. I showed Ivy the screen. Bridget had posted a photo of herself and Caden at some upscale bar, both of them laughing and holding cocktails. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to prioritize your own happiness. Living my best life, no regrets." Are you kidding me? Ivy grabbed the phone. She posted this today, the day after she abandoned her baby. Gets better. Look at the comments. People were congratulating them on choosing themselves and being brave enough to change course. A few mutual friends had liked the post. "This is unreal," Ivy said. "She's acting like she just decided not to buy a timeshare, not abandon her child." My phone rang. Lana. "I have news," she said. "I just got off the phone with opposing counsel. Caden and Bridget hired Maxwell's old firm, the most expensive family lawyers in the city." "Is that bad?" "For them? Yes, because expensive doesn't mean good, and they just proved they have plenty of money for child support. How do you feel about this going public?" "What do you mean?" "Court filings are public record. Once I submit this tomorrow, anyone can access it, including reporters." I looked at Ivy, who was nodding vigorously. "Do it," I said. "Let everyone see what kind of people they really are." The news broke 3 days after Lana filed the lawsuit. I was eating breakfast when Ivy called, practically screaming into the phone. "Turn on Channel 7, now!" I grabbed the remote. The morning news was running a story titled, "Local Couple Abandons Surrogate Sister." My stomach dropped as they showed photos of Bridget and Caden from their social media accounts. The intended parents reportedly told their surrogate, the woman's own sister, to figure it out regarding the unborn child, the anchor said. Court documents reveal a pattern of abandonment and financial irresponsibility. My phone started ringing immediately. Unknown numbers. Reporters, probably. I let them go to voicemail. Then Mom called. "Tori, what have you done?" Her voice was shaking. "It's on the news. Everyone's calling me." "I filed a lawsuit, Mom, like I told you I would." "But the reporters, they're saying terrible things about Bridget." "They're saying true things about Bridget. She's getting death threats online. People are calling her a monster." I walked to my laptop and pulled up Twitter. Surrogate betrayal was trending. The comments were brutal. What kind of person abandons their own sister like this? These people are sociopaths. That poor woman carrying their baby while they party. I hope they get everything they deserve in court. But there were also supporters of Bridget and Caden. People are allowed to change their minds about having kids. The surrogate knew the risks when she signed up. This is just family drama blown out of proportion. "Mom, I didn't ask for this to go public," I said. "But I'm not sorry it did. Your sister is devastated. She can barely leave the house." "Good. Maybe now she understands how I felt when she abandoned me." "Tori, please. Can't you work this out privately? As a family?" "We stopped being family the moment she told me to figure out what to do with her baby." Mom was quiet for a long moment. "There's something I need to tell you. About Bridget." "What now?" "She called me last night crying. She said she's always felt like she lived in your shadow, that everyone expects her to be responsible like you, but she's not built that way." "So this is my fault somehow?" "No, that's not what I'm saying. But maybe she's been struggling with feeling inadequate for a long time." I sat down hard on my couch. "Are you seriously making excuses for her right now?" "I'm trying to help you understand." "Understand what?" "That she resented me so much she decided to punish me by abandoning her own child." "She didn't say that." "She didn't have to." The pieces were clicking together. "How long has she felt this way, Mom?" Another pause. "Since you were kids, probably. You were always the one who got good grades, who followed rules, who helped around the house. Bridget felt like she could never measure up. So instead of trying harder, she just gave up and decided to hate me for it. I don't think she hates you." "She does, Mom. And you know what? The feeling's mutual now." I hung up and immediately called Lana. "I need to know something," I said when she answered. "Can we prove they planned this? That they never intended to keep the baby?" "What makes you think that?" "My mom just told me Bridget's resented me for years. This feels like revenge, not a change of heart." "Interesting theory. Let me dig into their communications. Phone records, emails, text messages. If they discussed abandoning the baby before they told you, we can prove premeditation." "How do we get access to that?" Discovery process. We can subpoena their records. That afternoon, Ethan showed up at my door with groceries and a concerned expression. We'd been friends since college, and he'd been checking on me more often since the pregnancy started. Saw the news, he said, unpacking food in my kitchen. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Angry, but fine. Good. You should be angry. He handed me a container of soup. What they did is unforgivable. Everyone keeps telling me I should try to work it out with them. That family is family. Family doesn't treat each other like garbage. Ethan leaned against the counter. You know what I think? What? I think you're going to be an amazing mom, with or without them. Something in his voice made me look at him more carefully. Ethan, I know this isn't the time or place, but I need you to know, you're not alone in this. Whatever happens, you've got people who care about you. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Caden. We need to talk. Meet me at Starbucks on 5th Street in an hour. Come alone. I showed Ethan the message. Don't go, he said immediately. It's probably a trap. What kind of trap? The kind where he tries to manipulate you into dropping the lawsuit, or records you saying something he can use against you in court. I stared at the message. What if he wants to apologize? To work something out? Then he can do it through lawyers. Don't go, Tori. But even as I nodded agreement, I was already planning to be at that Starbucks in an hour, because I needed to look Caden in the eye and hear him try to justify what he'd done. I needed to see if there was any part of the man I'd once considered a brother-in-law left, or if he was as much of a stranger as Bridget had become. I got to Starbucks 15 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner where I could see the entrance. Caden walked in exactly on time, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usual perfect hair was messy, and his clothes were wrinkled. He spotted me and walked over, not bothering to order anything. Thanks for coming, he said, sliding into the chair across from me. Talk. Look, I know how this looks. It looks like you and my sister decided to abandon your baby and leave me to deal with the consequences. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. Caden rubbed his face. Bridget's been having panic attacks. Ever since the pregnancy started, she's been spiraling. She's convinced she'll be a terrible mother. So get therapy. Don't abandon your child. We tried therapy. She won't go. She just keeps saying she made a mistake, that she's not ready, that she never will be. And you? What's your excuse? I'm trying to support my wife. By supporting her decision to abandon your baby, by not forcing her into something she's not capable of handling. I leaned forward. Caden, I'm 7 months pregnant. 7 months. This isn't a theoretical baby anymore. This is a real child who's going to need parents in 2 months. I know that. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're both just hoping this problem will magically disappear. That's not... He stopped, looking around the coffee shop. Can we please keep our voices down? Why? Embarrassed to be seen with the sister you screwed over? I'm embarrassed about the whole situation, okay? You think I wanted this to happen? You think I wanted to be on the news as the guy who abandoned his surrogate? Then why did you do it? Because Bridget said she'd leave me if I forced her to keep the baby. There it was. The truth? Finally. So you chose her over your child. I chose my marriage. Same thing. I stood up. We're done here. Wait. He grabbed my arm. There's something else you need to know. I sat back down. What? My dad's planning something. He's been making calls, trying to find dirt on you. He hired a private investigator. To do what? Prove you're unfit to raise the baby. He thinks if he can show you're unstable or vindictive, the court will side with us. I'm unstable? I'm not the one who abandoned my parental responsibilities. I know, but he's desperate. The publicity is killing him. His golf buddies are giving him hell, and he's taking it out on everyone. Why are you telling me this? Caden looked down at his hands. Because you don't deserve this. None of it. You were trying to help us and we threw it back in your face. Are you apologizing? I'm trying to. Try harder. I'm sorry, Tori. I'm sorry we put you in this position. I'm sorry we handled it so badly. I'm sorry my father's making it worse. But you're not sorry enough to actually step up and be a parent. I can't force Bridget. You're not forcing her. You're holding her accountable. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. A text from Lana. Emergency. Call me now. I have to go, I said, standing up again. Tori, wait. What if we could work something out? Privately? Like what? We'll pay child support. Full support. Whatever the court would order. But we sign away our parental rights. You get full custody, we stay out of your life. I stared at him. You want to pay me to disappear with your baby. I want to find a solution that works for everyone. There is no solution that works for everyone, Caden. That's the point. You created a human being. You don't get to just opt out because it's inconvenient. I walked away, leaving him sitting alone at the table. In the parking lot, I called Lana back. What's the emergency? I got the phone records, she said. Tori, you need to sit down. I'm in my car. What did you find? Text messages between Bridget and Caden going back 3 months. They've been planning this since your second trimester. My hands started shaking. Planning what exactly? To abandon the baby. There are dozens of messages. Bridget calling the pregnancy a mistake and saying she never should have agreed to this. Caden agreeing and saying they need to find a way out. They've been lying to me for 3 months. It gets worse. There are messages about hoping you'd just handle it if they backed out. They discussed whether you'd keep the baby or put it up for adoption. They were betting on you keeping it. They planned this. They actually planned to dump their baby on me. And we can prove it. Every message is time-stamped. The court is going to see exactly how calculated this was. I sat in my car, staring at the Starbucks where Caden was probably still sitting, probably texting Bridget about our conversation. Lana, I want to destroy them. Good, because with this evidence, we can. When's the hearing? 2 weeks. And Tori? After the judge sees these messages, they're going to wish they'd never heard the word surrogate. The courthouse was packed. I hadn't expected the media attention, but apparently Sister Sue's sister over abandoned baby was the kind of story that drew crowds. Reporters lined the hallway, and I had to push through them to get to the courtroom. Lana met me at the entrance, looking sharp in her navy suit. Ready for this? She asked, as ready as I'll ever be. Inside, I saw Bridget and Caden sitting at the defendant's table with their lawyer, a stern-looking man in an expensive suit who kept whispering urgently to them. Maxwell sat in the front row behind them, glaring at me like I'd personally ruined his life. Mom was there too, sitting alone in the middle section looking miserable. All rise, the bailiff called, the Honorable Judge Patricia Martinez presiding. Judge Martinez was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. She settled behind the bench and looked over her reading glasses at both legal teams. This is a petition for declaratory judgment regarding parental obligations in a surrogacy arrangement, she said. Counselor Kelly, you may proceed. Lana stood up. Your Honor, this case is about accountability. The defendants entered into a legally binding surrogacy contract with the plaintiff, who was the defendant's sister. After 6 months of pregnancy, they informed her they were abandoning their parental responsibilities and expected her to figure it out. She walked to the evidence table. We have text messages proving this abandonment was premeditated, planned over months, while they continued to deceive the plaintiff. The defense attorney, his name was Richard something, stood up. Objection, Your Honor. Inflammatory language. Overruled. Continue, Miss Kelly. Lana pulled out a thick folder. These are text messages between the defendants from 3 months ago. I'll read just a few examples. She cleared her throat. From Bridget to Caden, dated 4 months ago. I can't do this. Having a baby was the worst idea we ever had. We need to find a way out. Bridget shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Caden's response? Maybe Tori will just keep it if we back out. She's always wanted kids. And here's another one from Bridget. We can't force her to get rid of it, but we don't have to take it either. She volunteered for this. Judge Martinez looked up sharply. These messages were sent while the plaintiff was carrying their child? Yes, Your Honor. For months, they planned to abandon their baby while continuing to attend doctor's appointments and pretending to be excited about parenthood. Your Honor, Richard interrupted, my clients were experiencing normal anxiety about becoming parents. Normal anxiety doesn't include planning to abandon your child, Judge Martinez said coldly. Continue, Miss Kelly. Lana called me to the witness stand. My hands were shaking as I was sworn in. Tori, please tell the court why you agreed to be a surrogate for your sister. Because she asked me to. Because she said she couldn't have children and it was breaking her heart. Because I thought I was helping create a family. And how did you feel when they told you they were abandoning the baby? Devastated, betrayed, like I'd been used. My voice cracked. I put my life on hold for 9 months. I gave up dating, traveling, my body, my health, all because I thought I was doing something beautiful for my sister. What did Bridget say when you asked what would happen to the baby? She said I'd figure something out, that I always land on my feet. And Caden? He said it was my choice to make, like the baby was suddenly my responsibility because they didn't want it anymore. Richard cross-examined me, trying to make it seem like I was vindictive, that I'd known the risks, but every question just made their abandonment look worse. Then Lana called Bridget to the stand. Bridget looked terrible, pale, thin, like she hadn't slept in weeks. She kept glancing at the packed courtroom. Bridget, did you ask your sister to be your surrogate? Yes. Did you tell her you desperately wanted a baby? Yes. Did you attend doctor's appointments and pretend to be excited about the pregnancy? I was excited, at first. But you were planning to abandon the baby for months, weren't you? I was having doubts. These aren't doubts. Lana held up the phone records. These are detailed plans to abandon your child and leave your sister to deal with the consequences. Bridget started crying. I was scared. I didn't know if I could be a good mother. So instead of getting help, you decided to abandon your responsibilities? I didn't abandon anything. The baby isn't born yet. The baby you're legally and financially responsible for regardless of when it's born. Richard objected, but Judge Martinez overruled him again. Bridget, Lana continued, do you love your sister? Of course I do. Is this how you show love? By using her body to create a child you plan to abandon? I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way, because you chose to make it happen this way. Bridget broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Caden reached for her, but she pulled away. Judge Martinez called a recess. In the hallway, I saw Bridget and Caden arguing in hushed, angry whispers. Maxwell was red-faced, gesturing wildly at their lawyer. How do you think it's going? I asked Lana. Look at them, she said, nodding toward the defendants. They're falling apart. We've got this. When court resumed, Judge Martinez didn't waste time. I've reviewed the evidence and heard the testimony. This is one of the most callous cases of parental abandonment I've seen in 20 years on the bench. Bridget and Caden sat frozen. The defendants are hereby ordered to accept full legal and financial responsibility for the child. They will pay child support, medical expenses, and educational costs until the child reaches 18. They will also pay the plaintiff's legal fees and medical expenses related to the pregnancy. Maxwell shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is outrageous. Sit down, sir, or I'll hold you in contempt. Judge Martinez looked directly at Bridget and Caden. You created a life. You don't get to walk away from that because it's inconvenient. Court dismissed. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed through the silent courtroom. The chaos outside the courthouse was immediate. Reporters swarmed us as we walked down the steps, shouting questions and shoving microphones in our faces. How do you feel about the judge's ruling? Will you reconcile with your sister? What's next for your family? Lana pushed through them, creating a path for me. No comment. The ruling speaks for itself. Behind us, I could hear Maxwell shouting at reporters. This is a travesty of justice. My family will appeal. I turned around to see Bridget standing frozen on the courthouse steps, tears streaming down her face as cameras flashed around her. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the text messages. Tori, Mom appeared at my elbow looking frantic. Can we please talk? Privately? Not now, Mom. Please. Just 5 minutes. Lana squeezed my arm. I'll handle the reporters. Take your time. Mom pulled me aside to a quiet corner of the courthouse lobby. I know you're angry. I'm not angry anymore, Mom. I'm done. She's still your sister. No, she's not. Sisters don't do what she did to me. But the baby, your baby, will be her child too legally. You'll have to deal with each other for the next 18 years. Actually, I won't. I pulled out my phone and showed her a text from Lana that had come in during the hearing. Bridget and Caden's lawyer already reached out about signing away their parental rights. They want to pay support but have no custody, no visitation, no involvement. Mom's face went white. They're giving up the baby completely? They never wanted the baby, Mom. The court just forced them to pay for it. But what about you? Raising a child alone? I won't be alone. I gestured toward the lobby where Ivy and Ethan were waiting. I have people who actually care about me. Tori, please. Don't let this destroy our family. Bridget destroyed our family the day she decided to use me as a human incubator and then throw me away. I'm just dealing with the consequences. Mom started crying. I failed you both. I should have seen this coming, should have stopped it. You did see it coming. You just chose to ignore it because dealing with Bridget's problems was too hard. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Mom, nothing about this has been fair, but it's finally over. I walked away, leaving her standing alone in the courthouse lobby. Outside, Ivy and Ethan were waiting by my car. So, Ivy asked, how does it feel to win? Weird. Good, but weird. What happens now? Ethan asked. Now I go home and figure out how to be a single mom. Not single, Ivy said firmly. You've got us. Ethan nodded. Whatever you need. Babysitting, midnight diaper runs, someone to hold the baby while you shower. We're here. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Bridget. I'm sorry. For everything. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I showed them the message. Are you going to respond? Ethan asked. No. Sorry doesn't fix what she did. What if she means it? Ivy asked. Then she can prove it by staying out of my life and paying her child support on time. I deleted the message without responding. The drive home was quiet. When we pulled into my driveway, I saw a package on my front porch, a gift basket from my coworkers with baby clothes, and a card that read, "Congratulations on your victory." Look at that, Ivy said, reading the card. You're famous. Infamous, more like. Are you kidding? You're a hero. Do you know how many women have reached out to me asking how to contact you? Women who've been screwed over by family members, by ex-husbands, by people who thought they could just walk away from their responsibilities? I'm not a hero. I just got tired of being a doormat. Same thing, Ethan said. Inside, I made tea while Ivy and Ethan assembled the crib that had been sitting in boxes for weeks. Watching them work together, arguing over the instructions and laughing at their mistakes, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. You know what the best part is? I said, settling into my chair with my tea. What? They asked in unison. Bridget and Caden are going to spend the next 18 years paying for a child they'll never know. Every month, when that support check comes out of their account, they'll remember what they did. They'll remember that actions have consequences. Karma's a beautiful thing, Ivy said, tightening a screw on the crib rail. It really is. My phone rang. Lana, the paperwork's ready, she said. They're signing away their parental rights tomorrow. After that, they'll have no legal claim to the baby, just the financial obligation. Perfect. There's one more thing. Maxwell called. He wants to know if you'd consider letting them see the baby occasionally. As grandparents. What did you tell him? I told him to ask you directly if he wants an answer. The answer's no. They made their choice. I figured. I'll let him know. After I hung up, Ethan looked at me seriously. Any regrets? About the lawsuit? None. About doing the surrogacy in the first place? I put my hand on my belly, feeling the baby kick. Ask me in 2 months when I'm changing diapers at 3 a.m. You're going to be an amazing mom, Ivy said. I hope so, because this kid deserves better than the parents who created them. They're getting better, Ethan said quietly. They're getting you. Some people think they can walk away from family, from responsibility, from the consequences of their choices. But karma has a way of finding you, and some mistakes, like abandoning your own child, you never get to leave behind. Bridget and Caden learned that the hard way, and for the next 18 years, every support payment will remind them exactly what kind of people they chose to be. As for me, I'm done being the family fixer, the responsible one, the sister who cleans up everyone else's messes. Now I'm just going to be a mom, and that's enough.